Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 157. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, drnorge on the comics forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. No one can be me, but someone can represent what I stand for. The ideals that made me the sensei. Regulation haircuts. Unending respect for Dr. Manhattan's fashion sense. Major props for Steve Trevor's sheer willingness to speak his mind when it comes to his inner thoughts on the Wonder Woman DVD. A twisted sense of Superman's role as a leader. Still shaking dirt out of my ears because I listened to Sean when he said we needed to pose for our post-human appearance in Secret Six. An ironclad resolve to chat about the greatness of the comic book medium, but there is none other than me that has the wherewithal to uphold these ideals. So says the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin during his soon-to-be-released miniseries, Jim Segulin, Battle for the Whatnot. Don't forget to pick up the supporting miniseries, Cheeks, Whatnot's Dark Knight, coming soon.
Outstanding, dude. Outstanding.
We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasters. Jim, this episode we're going to be talking, of course, about our appearance in Secret Six number 8.
Woohoo!
We're going to be talking about Battle for the Cowl, because Battle for the Cowl number 2 came out, and I really want to chat about that. We have a whole bunch of stuff in Speeding Bullets. We'll talk about the Superman books, Green Lantern, you name it. There's just a whole bunch. And there's actually too much to talk about for this mini episode that we're doing. Because when we did the last episode, Jim and I did not have a chance to record together because you were in Vegas. And a ton of books have come out that we both really want to chat about, so we wanted to get some current material on there. So it's been 5 days since our last recording. So seeing as we had that kind of skip week when I was sick, we figured let's throw together a mini episode to put out for everyone, and then we'll have our next regular episode next weekend. So get us back on Sundays.
And of course, by mini episode, it does have the parentheses around the word mini, because we are Raging Bullets.
Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. The Filthy Rich hardcover and the Dark Entries hardcover. This is part of that Vertigo crime line, Jim. These are both regularly $19.99, 55% off only $8.99. Now that for me is a huge deciding factor on whether or not I'm going to be able to get one or both of these hardcovers. In this case, I got both because at $8.99, I'm getting both of these hardcovers from great creators for less than the price of one. I mean, duh. And these are like this first one by Brian Azzarello, Filthy Rich, with art by Victor Santos, cover by Lee Bermejo. Richard Junk Junkin has always lived on the wrong side of trouble. A former pro football star whose career was cut short by injury and a nasty gambling problem. Junk now believes his time, dreaming of what might have been, selling cars in Jersey, and lusting after the boss's unbelievably spoiled and unbelievably sexy, rich daughter, Victoria. So, when the boss asks him to be Victoria's personal bodyguard while she tears up the New York City club scene, Junk jumps at the chance. But before long, he finds that Victoria wants a lapdog and not a chaperone, someone who's going to do all of her dirty work. All of it. Someone who wants to get Filthy Rich. From Brian Azzarello, the multiple Eisner Award-winning writer of Vertigo's long-running crime series 100 Bullets, and the smash hit graphic novel Joker, and artist Victor Santos, the creator, writer, artist of the hit French series Young Ronin. It's a 200-page book. It's black and white. I mean, it's going to be a neat series. I'm excited for this one.
Oh, definitely. And, it's one of those things where you said it. You hit the nail on the head. You can get both of them for less than one price. Throw in Azzarello, I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah. And the other one, it's Dark Entries, and we'll talk more about the end of the episode, by Ian Rankin, with art by Werther Del Idera, and a cover again by Lee Bermejo from The Joker. So, I mean, that's these are two great entries, and both of them are in the 200-page range. The Dark Entries is 216 pages. I mean, duh. Whatever your shipping preferences, whatever your bag and boarding preferences, DCB Service accommodates your collecting needs. Don't forget our sponsor, InStockTrades.com. Jim, we got coming up right after Art Lion one. It'll be episode 159. We are going to be chatting about the Long Halloween. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this one. Yeah, definitely. This is the 13 issue, which actually is technically 15 because of the two bookended issues. It's the Absolutes, regularly $75, 37% off, only $47.25. $19.95 for the trade regularly, 37% off, only $12.57. It's great savings if you don't have this, and definitely join us for that segment because this is a great series, and we're definitely going to have to split it over into two parts because we're going to we're tackling this thing cover to cover, and I really want to dig into this one. InStockTrades.com offers free shipping on orders of $50 or more and has a ton of collected editions in stock and ready to ship. Thank you for supporting us, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Jim, I want to remind everyone that we are continuing to support the HERO Initiative. And HERO creates a financial safety net for yesterday's creators who need emergency medical aid, financial support for the essentials of life, and an avenue back into paying work. It's a chance for all of us to give something back to the people who've given us so much enjoyment. For more information, visit www.heroinitiative.org or call 310-909-7809. And we're not asking for a ton for this. My thought is, if periodically you can donate the cost of one comic book to Hero Initiative, it's going to help somebody else out. In these tough economic times, I know it's hard to, donate, but this is something, comics are a hobby that we all get pleasure and enjoyment out of. These are the people that laid that foundation piece here for us. It's a great chance to help them out and do something for an industry that we all enjoy. So it's a great way to do that, and we have a handy-dandy link on RagingBullets.com, so definitely click on that and support the Hero Initiative, because they're great. Also sponsoring us this episode is Lords of Justice, the action-packed superhero anthology published by Altered Dimensions, featuring original stories by Michael Boatman, Brian Lee Hitchcock, Robert Ohm, and Kevin G. Summers. Lords of Justice is a thrill-packed ride through the world of masks, capes, and high-tech gear that will keep you turning the pages from end to end, and leave you wanting more.
Ethan went into the woods behind the dorm to change into costume. He checked his watch. It was 10:25. Plenty of time left before yesterday's hitmen were released. That left him to worry about getting up to Hines' room. Climbing up there wouldn't be a problem, except that he couldn't be sure which room was his from out here. He'd have to go in through the front door, and that was liable to cause a fuss. On the other hand, he looked less trustworthy out of costume, and changing in the bathroom was out of the question. Anytime he made a conspicuous appearance in the same place as both Ethan McCarthy and the termite created a real danger that someone would put two and two together. So there was nothing for it. The dorm building was a sizable cement tower lined with dark windows, guarded by a pair of heavy glass doors. He smoothly pushed his way through into the lobby. To his right was a young man at a desk. He looked up when the termite came in and began nervously pawing the side of his face with one finger.
Whether you're a fan of comics, superheroes, or just action-packed adventure tales, add Lords of Justice to your reading list. Lords of Justice is available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and CyberWizardProductions.com. And Lords of Justice, it's a hefty book.
Yeah, it's a good-sized tome here.
Yeah, 4 different characters in there that you're going to get a chance to follow by 4 different creators. So you can get 4 very different, unique presentations of the whole superhero genre and the superhero world. And this is great. So it's something I can highly recommend. I picked mine up. I'm holding it in my hand right now. It's a really nice book. So definitely check that out. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler show. We go in-depth in the plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Jim, without further ado, we've got a heavy-duty Speeding Bullets segment to chit-chat about, so let's go ahead and jump right into that.
Can Batman escape? One hint, the worst is yet to come.
Jim, I want to talk about our first comic book appearance in Secret Six number 8.
Woohoo! Thank you. You're awesome.
Now, Jim, from one friend to another, I just want to let you know, as the OP issue opens up, I thought about it. You're worth dismembering. I mean that, man.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Right here.
I love the shopping segment with Scandal and Jeanette's lackey. It's interesting how much we learn about Jeanette when she's off camera, just like we learn about her when she's on. She's one of those characters that through interactions with other characters and how they view her, we get to know her, which I do find myself captivated by trying to get a handle on her because she's so new and unique.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. She's one of those characters, just when I start to think, okay, I know she's this, something will happen that will change it. I'm like, okay, new plan. Let's see if we can figure out what we're going to go on now.
Only in Secret Six does a shopping experience for dog collars fit and seem natural. Liana, the private dancer, and Scandal have a run-in. And, Ragdoll makes me laugh every single issue. You totally get why the team keeps him around, but I love that he creeps them out as much as he does us as readers. I already have a tuxedo, some nice shoes, and a bunch of pharmaceuticals. A fruitasmic rainbow of condoms. Not that I need them or anything. It begs the question, though. Why does he even have them? So I came up with a list.
Oh, no.
Ragdoll's list of uses for fruitasmic condoms. And I made a top 5 list. So starting with number 5, oven mitts. Sure, they don't really offer any protection from heat, but let's face it, the dude likes pain anyway. Number 4, slippers. Now, I have a feeling this dude would get a kick out of a challenge of trying to make it around the house with lubricated, cozy socks on. Number 3, a shower cap. Ragdoll doesn't have much hair, so this actually would probably be a cost-effective solution for him. He could still wash his scalp, but avoid over-drying his hair by using shampoo too frequently. Number 2, iPod Touch case. Granted, he would have to use the Grape Ape Fruitasmic condom, but we all know that any of these touchscreen devices get easily scratched. And number 1, weightlifting. Now, I know on the surface this doesn't make any sense, but in elementary school, a classmate of mine named Pete felt it was a good idea to let us all know at recess that he has a bunch of condoms at home, and he uses them for weightlifting all the time. The fact that I remember that over 25 years later proves that he got a good ribbing for it. So, no pun intended.
You saw me jumping at the mic.
I wouldn't take Ragdoll on a date with me either, because the dude's just plain twisted.
Yeah.
But imagine running into someone who looks like the one that you loved who died. How hard would that be? I really felt for Scandal when she was trying hard to see Knockout in there somewhere. She's trying to make a connection. The lady of the divine buttocks. It's funny how even through the humorous dialogue, we get some real emotional debate. Why do we risk falling in love? When is it time to move on? When is it right to move on? I love seeing Scandal's journey to get past the loss.
Yeah, and I am just so loving that she is able to move on.
Mm-hmm.
When we first saw the introduction of Leanna, I was a little bit worried for her safety because she's dressed up in a a knockout outfit, and Scandal had a little bit to drink at that point in time. And I saw this, I'm like, oh god, this poor girl is going to be filleted like a fish. But we didn't see that. And I was like, yes! So it's just that cool thing about the whole love never dying, the eternal strength of love and whatnot. It's just, put into these villain characters having these emotions. Going through this stuff is what makes Secret Six such an awesome ride. It's not just your cookie-cutter villains. These villains have in-depth, they're characters, they are living, breathing entities, at this point in time. You're drawn into them, you're understanding them, and you're still getting, thoroughly entertained because their moral compass is a little bit skewed.
And what makes them easy to connect with, though, is that we're seeing the same real journeys that you would see a heroic character go on. We've seen these explorations with heroes, but there is a little twist to it because they're villains. And we see that just because they're villains doesn't mean there isn't a humanity to them. And that's where it becomes interesting, because we all know that these are people who are bad. And there's no two ways about it. Yet, that's not the whole story, which makes it interesting to follow them. I have to compliment the art team for catching our good side. I was so afraid that we'd both look like dorks in our first comic book appearance. And I have to say I'm most impressed with you, Jim. I felt you stood tall and defiant. You were like a rock. And my stony glare looked quite intimidating as well, if I do say so myself.
Dude, man, that's just...
I have to say,
I wish I had thought of it.
I have to say thank you to Gail and the entire art team for putting our names on those gravestones. I have not been able to shut up about it to friends of mine since the issue came out, and I'm sorry to them. But it was such a funny placement that it seemed to fit us, because it really was something that I'm like, oh, that's like very personal.
Dude, I brought in one of my copies to work, and I have been showing everybody that I work with, and including my boss. Mm-hmm. They already know I'm a comic book fan, so I'm like, oh, you gotta see this, look. Like, they look and they're like, is that supposed to be you? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And they're like, okay, you're really excited about being dead. I'm like, yeah, but I'm dead in a Secret Six book. So that's what makes it, more exciting. And I got somebody who wanted me to bring in some Six for them to read, so we may have another convert.
Oh, good. And that's one of those books that I think it's this. I want to keep talking about this because this is just such a great issue, and it's what I love about this series, because hope is the heart of pain, and only fear is eternal. But his follow-up of rutting in the dirt with strangers does inspire her to try and go out on a date and try to recapture some of who she is as a person. It's a journey that we've all gone through at some time or another. Not necessarily about the death of a loved one, but when a relationship ends or something like that. We've all been in this spot where there comes that point that you've got to make the decision to move on. And what is it that gets you to do that? I loved laughing at his philosophy because in relationship there is pain. We have heart-wrenching, painful moments, but we keep trying and keep having them because of the intense feelings we get when you are truly in love with someone. It's funny how humor really had some deep connections for me on these relationships. I was laughing and joking, sure, but I was thinking as well. And we have all fallen hard one time or another due to a relationship, but we just keep trying. And it felt like that in this moment. Like she was trying to sort through her head, like, where am I at right now? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? Very torn. I think we've all had those bad outfits, too, from time to time that we thought looked good, but in reality just didn't work.
Come on, that was snazzy, man. That was styling and profiling, baby.
Dude, I've seen some of your Facebook pictures.
Hey, you know.
I'm so glad there's not more of me from high school up there because there's a couple of them already that have been tagged to me, too.
Yeah,
and high school's a time I'd love to forget. I wouldn't love to forget high school. I'd love to forget some of my apparel choices and style choices, but
I have no defense for what I wore and how I took the pictures. Only that I thought it was cool, and I was wrong. Okay.
I've got to say, you looked very stern.
I did not know how to smile back then.
This room looks like I think. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, dirty, twisted, and just a little bit of disgusting, like the pizza on the floor. Scandal agrees to go with him with her redheaded friend. Jeanette and Deadshot make a really cool couple. I actually really like this exploration with them, and I hope this continues. No one dies tonight's the rule, and I love that Red thinks they are just joking about this.
Oh my God, I laughed out loud. That was like one of the many laugh out loud moments. But that seriously, I was just like, okay, we got an agreement here. No one dies tonight. Oh, you guys are just so funny. That was a real, they needed to make that pact.
The grab-and-go segment with Deadshot and Catman from a few issues back. I love that this book has nothing that's a throwaway. Like, little segments in the back that you think, like, oh, that's, was kind of a neat little segment to showcase Deadshot and Catman. No, it's back now, and these characters play into this. It's great. I want to hang out at Hyper Time. I love the reference to Mark Waid's creation. Neat little tidbit. Great idea for a club where people dress as heroes. The drinks that they ordered, the characters, even say a ton about the people at the table. White wine. Any good year. It shows that Jeanette considers herself upper class. She respects the finer things in life. She may come from money or may have earned her money over time, but there is a definite, that shows where she's at in the class hierarchy.
Definite class distinction, yeah.
Right. Deadshot's a man's man. Doesn't really care much what people think. He orders something from the tap. He knows who he is. Uncomfortable dressing up. Prefers being casual. You get, that kind of segment from him. Scandal's whiskey shows that she needs a little courage to relax this evening. She's not sure if she should even be there, yet she wants to be there. It shows where she's kind of at the moment, that like trying to figure out her whole situation. Liana's rum and coke shows that she's a party girl. She's out to have a good time, but she also wants the people she's with to have a good time. And I like that just the whole thing. Tiny details, but the ordering choices fit the situation at hand. Thank God I have never used pickup lines. They bet me $30 I wouldn't score with you. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about in a little bit, pacing. Gale is a master of pacing. I love the fact that there's not random fights. It's fights that you build to for a reason, and by the time they get there, you so want to see them.
Yeah.
Deadshot's a pro. He knows that they were followed, and I love him taking apart the bar in the handicap stall to use for a club on the biker following him. I'll split the $30 with you. Okay, big tip. Never offer to pay a girl $15 to go out with you after you were stupid enough to tell her you bet on scoring with her. I mean, it's just pathetic on so many levels. Scandal eventually hits the guy, but what worked with both Deadshot and Scandal, again, like I said, the pacing. The build is what makes the fights cool. We all know people who are stupid enough to not know when to quit. We wanted to see him get his butt kicked, and the same with the guy following them. a fight with a good build, hell yeah moments.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny because you're talking about never using that type of pickup line. I knew a guy in college who used a very similar line to that, but he didn't say score with. He said get a phone number because he said that was what we supposedly bet. Now, we never made the bet with the guy, but that was his approach. That was his way of getting a ha-ha-ha kind of chuckle from the girl. Now, this friend of mine, we nicknamed him Slappy. And there is a reason. Almost every single time we went out, smack, someone hit him in the face. So, yeah.
And he never got it, did he?
What?
That why he was getting slapped, or that?
Oh, no, he knew. He thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
Oh, so he wanted to get slapped.
Yeah, he was a weird dude. I had some weird friends in college, okay? I admit that. This is one of the guys that I don't see now that I really wish I could find him.
As opposed to your perfectly normal high school friends?
Yeah, exactly.
So, some of whom you still hang with?
Oh, yeah.
Because this is very normal what we do.
Come on. This is sane-ish. But yeah, the whole Deadshot fighting. I love the fact you know him as a shooter, but this is showing you he's not just a shooter. He's a fighter. He can throw down. Yeah. There's a difference between, sometimes, guys who are so heavily dependent on guns, they're not good any other way. These are the long shot killers. You're people who, you'll see them carrying like 6 or 7 guns just in case one, they drop and pick up the other ones. Not Deadshot. Deadshot is a killer, flat out. He prefers to use the gun, but he doesn't need the gun. He is, and it's the big difference.
He's a pro and he's a survivor.
Yeah.
And that's a key in his business. It's either kill or be killed. And if you don't know what to look for, if you're not one step ahead of the guys following you or chasing you, you're going to wind up dead, no matter what the situation is. So, he survived this long because of those skills. I like Jeanette waiting outside the restroom. I had no doubt she knew exactly what happened. There's something so intelligent about her, and I really dig this character because of it. She carries herself, she's drawn, in the way she's drawn, and it's a consistency when Nicholas Scott draws her, when this art team drew her. I really liked how this character's been handled. She has a confidence that she just kind of exudes. And it's kudos to both art teams that have worked on this character, because I really like that about her.
Yeah, she's a proper lady, and she doesn't completely fit in our timeline, but it doesn't really matter. She's got that presence to her. There's something about her that even if we were to see her walking down the street, you would look at her, but you wouldn't. You would your attention would draw to her, but it wouldn't be like what's that freak doing with the powdered wig? There's just something about her that it's she, and I'm wondering if part of that is who she is. Part of it is just her. I don't know.
She fits, even though you feel like she
doesn't
shouldn't.
Fit. Right?
Yeah. That's one of the things that I like about her. She skirts the line without going too far.
Exact. Bingo.
Scandal and Liana. Not sure if we're going to see this relationship continue to evolve, but I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Scandal shows off at the club. We see her let loose and be herself again. We all hit this point after something terrible happens, and we begin healing. Whatever it is in our life, and this can be anything from job loss to relationship loss, whatever. We've all hit that point where we've hit sort of rock bottom, and you need to work your way back up again. And it's whatever those moments hit, whether it's friends that do it or a relationship that does it, that's what I loved about the reality of all this. It was so cool to see these action segments having some personal, deep-rooted meaning for the characters.
Yeah, and it was funny because after that big fight scene when she takes down the frat boys, I noticed that there was more touching, more intimacy between her and Liana, and it was this little stuff of seeing them hold hands. And one of the times when they're sitting at the restaurant at the dinner table, there's a scene where they're just, holding hands. And it was just that first slight touching. It's not, hardcore, passionate, girl-on-girl action. It's a tenderness. It's an emotion. It's a connection. And it's like that growing feeling.
And forget the girl-on-girl part. We've all been there. I remember dates I've been with. The first time you hold hands and that type of thing, where it's kind of like you're wondering, is the date going well? Is it not? And you start feeling like there's that something has happened during it. It could be a conversation piece. It can be some fun event that you shared or something that leads to that first moment that you hold hands or something like that. That's where I'm like, I've been there. This works. And I'm like, wow, this is cool.
You reach there, you grab hold of the hands, and they don't snatch it away and say, no, not now. Not that that's ever happened to me.
It's happened to us all. The uncomfortable conversation over dinner. Deadshot and Jeanette start off by agreeing that people such as Hitler, Stalin, and the like, terrors of the world, make a difference because they inflict pain on others. They're a historical piece. It sheds light on why they live the way they do, and their philosophies, how it's a little skewed. We were talking about. Liana shows her colors by adding her own thoughts that people are basically good. She talks about how some people can't tell the difference between being sad and being angry, and how she feels sorry for them because they lash out at those that they love. What worked for me here, Deadshot connected with this on some level and realized that she'd feel that way about him if she knew who he really was. I love how this led to the conversation change by him. It hit too close to home. That felt, again, human moments that are in this book that just so totally work for me. We've seen Catman have this kind of exploration. We just saw Deadshot have this kind of exploration, where they have to really take a look at who they are as a person and not feel proud about certain things or not feel comfortable about certain things. Scandal connected with her from this segment, though. She's kind, and she reflects back that Kay not being there is the hope that won't happen for her. She kind of keeps hoping for her, and she did in the beginning. We saw her hoping for Kay to somehow be a part of this girl. This girl is her facing her fear, and this night is her chance to find some happiness, that whole, can't be with the one you love the one you're with, and, where's that going to go? Even though it falls outside what she hopes for. I liked that. It was a very deep issue, framed in just a whole ton of fun.
And this was like I call it the classic Gail Simone writing style.
Yeah.
You have your action, your kind of funny moments, your build up to a serious, in-depth thing, and it would go back and forth, boom, 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 and from beginning to end, you go through this emotional roller coaster where you're like, yeah, that's cool. Ooh, look at her, she's kicking some butt. To ooh, yeah. Oh, man. And then even on second, third read-throughs, you start seeing the uncomfortable, like with the Deadshot thing at the restaurant. That was something I really caught on the second, read-through. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, nice. That was a good, good thing. It's, that's why, we gush about this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There's just so much. It gets me thinking, gets me going, gets me jazzed up.
We all have favorite writers. And we have favorite writers for a reason. And there's something about her writing. And this is why, I remember back when our show first started and you weren't reading Birds of Prey. And I kept saying to you, dude, you've got to be reading this book. There was something about her writing when I first read her for the first time when she took over that book. And that was my first exposure to her. I just connected with it right away. There was something about it just thoroughly entertained me. But it was deep. There was a lot in there to this writing. And it is one of the reasons why I just religiously, this is my favorite writer. And I think we all connect with our favorite writers on that level. There's something personal with that connection. And I encourage you to keep finding, exploring, whether you agree with me or not, I don't care. I know who my favorite writer is right now. But I encourage you to try and find out who your favorite writers are and why. I've got a lot of favorite writers, but this is like my top one because of these moments. Every month I pick up a book from her, I'm thoroughly entertained, and there's something deep to it, and I go through the whole emotional gambit, and I love this. This is really cool. Imagine not only having your head shoved in a toilet and being made fun of for your smell, but then losing your other eye.
Oh, that was absolutely perfect. Just, snatches the other eye out of the guy's eye. I was just like, yes, I knew it was coming. You knew it had to happen, but just the fact that when you see it going down, you still just laugh.
I gotta say this. You need to be smart enough to know when you're outclassed. You don't find a guy carrying a machine gun by threatening to pinch him. You realize you're outgunned, accept that, and walk away. In this case, run. Otherwise, you get what you deserve. This guy kept coming. If a guy shoves my head in a toilet, and beats me up with a bar from a handicap stall, I'm not going to go face him again. It's just one of those things you're just going to realize, you know what? I lost. I played the game. I lost. I'm still alive.
Yeah, see, you gotta take your victory where you can get it, you know. And you think about back to when they first met these guys, you know, just how easily they disposed of them. They should have known that this is a professional. This is not your everyday average, street person that you're just going to be able to steamroll over and scare them with, with your swastika eyeball and your scarred face going, I'm a tough guy. No, you're a dead man. It's very simple.
Dude, a guy who takes apart a toilet stall to beat you up is a different class of bully. Dude beat me up, he wins. Fine. I can accept that. I can go on my own. You know, it's kind of one of those things, and I wouldn't tell my friends the story. You know, it's one of those things. I'm not going to tell anybody I got beat up with a toilet stall. It's just one of those things. You move on. You say, you know what? I couldn't find him.
Lost him. He lost him.
I couldn't find him.
Yeah, he ran.
I need to go home.
He was afraid of me, and he ran.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's what happens.
And it's a go. Yeah, I don't know who he is because they didn't know it was Deadshot. You know, it's Mustachio Dude. So just let him go. They get the one up on Deadshot though, and I agree he would have won. Like Deadshot would have turned the tables, but you gotta love a date that throws a table at your enemies. What are you looking at me like that for? I didn't make any silly promises. The flirtation between these two. She's a powerful, confident, sexy lady. I get the attraction. Very real.
And the funny thing is, after I read that, I went back to that sequence when they were making the No One Dies pact. She didn't say a word.
No.
It was only, Scandal and Deadshot saying no one dies. And she was just quietly sitting there. And I'm like, oh. And I should have picked it up, but I'm like,
But that's where, this is exactly why you go back through and reread an issue. It's always fun to go back through and reread and see little elements that set the stage for the event later on. Scandal opens up to Liana and lets herself be vulnerable, which pays off. A trust has been built, even if it's a short term. Who knows? I don't know, where this is going to go. I'm into it right now. I'm very into it, so I want to see more of this. This leads to Ragdoll's Tiny Titan style dream, which I love. Tiny Titans. Tiny Titans is another one of my favorite books right now. And honestly, if I had to cut myself down to 5 books right now, one of those books for sure would be Tiny Titans, and one of those books for sure would be this book. References from Speed Racer. The duty joke being stuck in his head all day. The way he sees himself as a hero. I bet none of you are legal when he hangs with the Titans. Save the monkeys indeed.
Dude, man, I love this. The change in art style was absolutely perfect. And I just was like, I was eating it up as I'm reading it. Again, more stuff where if you read it through a second time, like when he's hanging out with the Titans, I never noticed he had... Beast Boy, shape changed into like a little spider on him.
Right.
I'm like, a green spider. That's Beast Boy. Sweet. And in the background in his room, there's a picture frame of the Mad Hatter. Of course, there's the Terror Demon, who's his stuffed buddy there. And I was just like, man, this is just so cool.
He was locked in there for 3 days, and what a riot. If you're not reading Secret Six right now, I'm glad actually that this nice thing that happened for us happened after 8 issues in, because we've been raving about this book prior to this, and people know that there's a genuine love for this book at this point. I mean, honestly, from our comments on here, if you don't know it, this book is so awesome. It's just, it's a laugh riot a minute. To me, it's everything that I loved about I referred back to Birds of Prey, and this is the spiritual successor for Birds of Prey, Unchained. I've said that before, because it's got all of the elements that I loved about that series in it, but it's, because of the nature of the characters, it's like really taking a twisted turn. And
I was reading like some previews for number 9, and they go 2 of the characters think they could maybe be the succession to the Cowl.
I know.
I'm of course thinking Batman and Bane, but to add
Catman and Bane.
Yeah. Catman and Bane, but to add to it, Ragdoll wants to be their Robin. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be good.
Just a great series. Jim, can I do one off the cuff real quick? I didn't do any notes on this one, but there's a series that I want to shout out that just got restarted. Did you read Warlord, #1 by Mike Grell?
Yes, I did read that.
And one of the things that I really liked about this one was Mike Grell was the writer of the previous and artist on the previous Warlord series. And he's not the artist on this one, but I guess I understand that he said that he'd like to do a couple issues of it along the road. But I love it's Joe Prada who's doing the artwork, I believe, on this one. And I don't have the issue in front of me, so if I'm wrong on that, I apologize. But Grell did the covers. And it's nice because it's the story of Travis Morgan again, who gets pulled into this far-off world that has elements of fantasy to it and things like that. But what I liked about this series, it's a great example of how you relaunch a series and provide something for new readers as well as something for old readers. There's a quick little origin in this whole thing where anybody who hasn't read Warlord before can kind of get up to date on Travis Morgan's story and how he wound up where he is. But at the same time, there's this whole new storyline that's been developed throughout it. I really enjoyed it. It's great artwork. I just wanted to give the book a shout out if you haven't picked this one up. It's a great relaunch, and it's a great jumping on point for people. You don't need any Warlord experience at all to pick up this book.
Yeah, and I picked it up because it was the relaunch, and I figured maybe would want to talk about it. I'll be honest with you, the last time the Warlord came out, I wasn't too excited about it, and I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I gave that one a couple issues. I'm going to give this one a couple issues. It's not at the top of my stack, but it's, not the bottom about to get kicked out. I'm going to definitely give it this first story arc, see what the Warlord is and what is going on with that, because I'm one of those guys that has zero knowledge, zero history with this. So, one, I was able to follow the story, never felt, what's going on here? I was, and I was entertained when I read it. It just, I don't know, I'm not at the point where I'm going to say, yes, I'm locked in. Yes, this is going to be a constant order for me. This may just be a first story arc, and I may say, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to, let it flow through, see what happens.
Now, let me ask you this question. You talked about the old Warlord series. You gave it a few issues. Do you feel right now, going into this one, that this series had more for you than the previous one, or are you kind of in the same place you were for the previous one?
I'd actually say I'm probably a little bit stronger in this one than I was the last one. Because, with the last one, I think one of my biggest problems I had was it looked like they were doing either a retconning or a rehashing, a retelling of the previous Warlord story. Whereas this one is a continuation of what was previously done. Granted, I didn't read the previous stuff, but it's still, you have the Warlords already established in the land, he's already there and he's been there for a while, and these new people are adding to the story. With the current run. Whereas before, they were trying to recreate everything. And I think that's what turned me off of it. I like the fact that there is a history there. There's already this established character, there's always this established world, and these people are adding to it.
That's interesting. So because I read the previous Warlord series, it's interesting that you prefer having the continuity there, even though you weren't a part of it.
Yeah.
That's actually a draw to you that, we're not trying to reboot or rehash, we're just continuing off from where we left off before and having a good old time. That's interesting. That's an interesting reason as to what was the draw on this one for you. That's not a bad.
No. It's just it's funny because I didn't used to be like that. Yeah, probably a couple. When we first started this, I probably would have the exact opposite reaction. Mm-hmm. But now, because I'm so used to jumping into comics where I don't have this back history, and I discovered it along the way, and if the writer's a good writer, they will tell the back history along within the current history, the current story. That. And we're seeing that with this current Warlord. And I'm betting we'll probably see more and more as the issues progress. We'll see more of this background. We'll learn who his villains are and who, what the different people are, why they do it, and whatnot. So.
And I like the action sequences in it. We got to see a quick Warlord battle, and we got to see actually what he looks like with his ammo, which I think if we had gone back to the origin, we wouldn't have gotten a taste for what he's like in this world. And I was glad that we got to see that right away as well. So, and I like that he was totally shocked by the threat. Yeah. But I did like that it had a little bit of a mythology, like a medieval feel to it, but futuristic at the same time. That world's a very unique place. It's not one that is in any way cookie cutter because of the fact that it's almost its own time frame. Because you can't say it's the past because of their technology they have there, but yet it doesn't feel like the far-flung future. It's very hard to place when this would take place, which gives it an otherworldly, more alien world feel to it, which I really like.
It's got the whatnot feel to it.
Oh, God.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was Haunted Tank. And this was a 5-issue miniseries that just ended. And I'm not going to go too heavy into the plot lines and whatnot of it. I just really, I don't know, I really wanted to give it a shout out. Because when I was reading this, it's something that just, it was a reminder to me why I like getting Vertigo titles. And I throw out the term palate cleanser. And yes, it's part of that, but it's also because these are good stories, and they're different than what I'm currently reading. And in a way, you can, because sometimes people may misconstrue my comments of palate cleansers as being something that's just, there to change things up. No, it's something that changes things up, but it's something that's enjoyable to read. And the Haunted Tank really had some cool stuff going on with, just the basic concept is, a dead Confederate general, Jeb Stuart, his ghost comes back and helps his ancestors through time. Whenever they're in battle, whenever they're in danger, he shows up and helps out. And his current ancestor is in, Iraq with a cavalry unit, and they get separated, and it's, this cool thing, and he shows up, rides in, saves the day, and just as you're sitting there, you realize the born and raised Southern boy who knew exactly who Jeb Stuart wasn't his ancestor. His ancestor was the tank commander, who happens to also be an African American gentleman. So you're like, ooh. Where did he come from? How did he make it into the family, mix? Which just when I first read that in issue 1, that's how they ended. I was like, oh, this is going to be some cool stuff. And throughout this, we get an exploration of, just who different people are, why they do what they do, what is honor, what is, responsibility. Is he being a good guy for what he's doing? Is he not being a good guy for what he's doing? What is the purpose and the point behind what he's doing and why he's doing it? And it was just this really cool exploration, but it was also a really nice, military story. I liked seeing some military tactics, seeing some, I'm going to say it, regulation haircuts. It went beyond that, though. There was also, language that they would use, and just presence, and, this felt like it could, you take out the ghost, this could have been just a regular army story. You add the ghost into the mix, and it makes it just a little bit more beyond it. But it still kept that basic military war story that I enjoyed reading.
That's what I've liked about the current Sergeant Rock miniseries as well.
Same thing.
Which isn't Vertigo, but I mean, it's both of those books have been just really fun for me. I like that it's contained too. I would love to see another Haunted Tank miniseries out of this, but, it's one of those that I have no problem handing to somebody and say, hey, read and enjoy this. You don't need to know anything before or after. It's a great little... I think that's where your term palate cleanser really works for books like that, because it's one of those things where I love continuity. I'm a big fan of all that. But sometimes it's fun to just read a story and just read it and enjoy it and have a good time. And Vertigo is... A lot of Vertigo's line is like that. Have you been keeping up with Northlanders?
Yes. And funny thing... Northlanders, I'm still getting that on monthly.
Yeah, so am I.
Because I don't know, I haven't shifted it over to trade. I kept telling myself, I'm going to shift all my Vertigo over to trade, and almost all of it is, but Northlanders I'm still getting on monthly basis.
You see, I shifted back to monthlies on my Vertigo stuff, but Northlanders I always kept as a monthly as well. And issue number 16 is the one we're talking about. It's the 6th part and the final part of the Cross and Hammer. This was my favorite arc yet.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down. I think it was just because, what I loved about it? It's Magnus Mag Rodain and his daughter. This takes place in Ireland, his daughter Bridget. And you're through the beginning part of the arc, actually through most of the arc, you're thinking one thing about Magnus, and then a total curveball is thrown. You realize the guy was delusional the whole time. And I mean, you thought he was the hero, and he was, for Ireland, and he was, and I'm like sitting here, I'm following this guy and getting behind him because he's almost like a Wolverine-like character in the sense that, he's got his daughter, he's protecting her, but he's striking at these overwhelming numbers, and, he's making these surgical strikes and getting angry at these atrocities that are happening to people, when by the end of it you start realizing everything that he's doing is in his head. The occupation's been in place. It's now years and years later. His daughter's now an adult. She's married to somebody, and she's become part of this whole community. He is somebody who was a major landowner. This Magnus guy was a major landowner in the past, whose lands were overtaken because of that, and he never could handle the change and snapped. And it was funny, you thought you were following this hero all the way through, and I rallied behind him. I loved seeing everything that Magnus was doing, his tactical strikes and the action and the way everything was set up and how he was he was beating overwhelming odds, but at all times it felt believable because he was using his environment and his knowledge of the land as a way to overcome them. But the guy that's following him from the other side, I kept thinking, this guy is off. He doesn't know who he's dealing with because he kept finding clues, and his clues didn't seem to work right. But then you find out later, no, he was 100% correct on who he was following. We didn't think it was the case because this guy that we've been following, this hero, was delusional, and we got sucked into the delusion. Loved it.
Oh, man. I'm reading this, I'm thinking, reminding back to Mel Gibson's Braveheart movie,
Yes, yeah.
and just all the overwhelming odds, and I'm just like, I'm rooting for the guy, and then you get that at one issue going, what? Huh? Oh, that's brilliant. That is, and I just literally, I put down the issue and said, oh my God, that is absolutely brilliant. I love this. And that's one of the reasons why I can't go to trades on this, because of moments like that. When, they break down each individual, they're talking about the different people of this time, 100 years here, 200 years there, jumping back and forth and whatnot throughout the time dimensions. And it's like, wow, this is just a really cool concept.
And each arc is a jumping on point, which is really nice. Like, if you aren't reading this, pick up issue 17, and it's going to be a new arc. And it's going to be new characters. It's the same type of setting, in the sense, but it could be a completely different landmass that they're working off of in a completely different time period. One of the things I really liked about this character, though, is he felt like the hero throughout the story, but you find out later that he really was not a nice guy at all. He wanted a son instead of a daughter, and his daughter was very bitter on him because of this. But all the way through, you felt like his daughter was somehow learning from him, and she was like becoming this person who could become independent when she wasn't ever there. These were all delusions. I mean, it was brilliant. And he has to face her in this cave because they have him surrounded, and when she's facing him, she's feeding him the harsh realities that he's not this person he's crafted of himself in his head. She knows who he really is. She resents him. And he has to apologize to her in many ways for who he is, accept who he is, and basically walks out of the cave to his death. And it was just such an interesting twist on the story. It was very deep. And, he thought on some level he was purifying himself to deserve his daughter. And that's why I think he crafted this delusion for what he saw life as being. It was a great book, and I thought it was something we definitely needed to chat about. It's another good series. When you're talking about a haunted tank, Northlanders is one. I can't recommend this series enough. It's a great, great series. This, Unknown Soldier, Air. Yeah. There's Madame Xanadu. There's so many new series that have popped up. It's a little side note. 100 Bullets just ended. The issue 100 just came out. And I didn't read it. What I did is I got it, and I decided, you know what, this has been 100 issues, and I had these spells with 100 Bullets where I went to trade, and then I went back to singles and all that, and I'm like, because of the way I read it originally, I'd like to go back through and just kind of sit down and gradually reread the whole thing and then read issue 100. So I'm saving it, and I pulled out my first batch of issues, and I'm going to go through and just kind of gradually reread the whole thing. So I might be periodically in these Speeding Bullets segments talking about my progress on 100 Bullets. I'm doing the same thing with Fables right now. I started Fables back from issue number 1, and I'm right now on issue 54. And I'm going to get back to where it's currently at. I just kind of wanted to, because these are long-running series that I want to go back and kind of re-experience and reacquaint myself with characters, because I'm reading so much that I would like to really have a handle on what's been going on all the way through before I get to the crescendo. And Fables isn't ending, but I mean, 100 Bullets is a series that I enjoyed so much all the way through. So that's what I'm doing with 100 Bullets right now, similar to what I've been doing with Fables. So I'll do the same thing with Fables and 100 Bullets, where I'll probably pop in on my progress and just give little shout-outs. Actually, you know what? I'll do that with Fables. One of the issues that I just read, it's a Hansel story. And I forget the issue number. I'll put it in the show notes so I don't spoil it for anybody that wants to read it before they hear this segment. But it's a story with Hansel and Gretel. And what it turns out is Hansel and Gretel, they show it, the classic Hansel and Gretel story where, they go to the gingerbread house and, they're about to be cooked and all that stuff. But the premise behind Fables is in order to escape from this adversary that's taken over their world, who turns out to be Geppetto, Pinocchio's dad, turns out to be the major big bad in the whole thing. Geppetto has become like a dictator, this like emperor ruler that is, they went to escape from. So a lot of your favorite characters like Snow White, Baby Wolf, and all that went to this world. Well, Hansel, they give us a little background story on Hansel and Gretel. And Hansel turned very bitter because what happened was when they left the adversary's world, they basically made it that what happened over there, it's like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happened in their world stayed in their world. When they came to our world, the Mundy world, which is the term for people like us, we're Mundies, we're not Fables. When they came to the Mundy world, basically you're absolved of the crimes that you made over there. It's a fresh start for everybody. So because of that, Hansel and Gretel are faced with the fact that this evil witch is absolved and a working part of the society, which doesn't wash too well because she tried to cook them.
But they tried to eat her house. I think that's right. Self-defense.
So Hansel snaps and he becomes like this killer and starts becoming a mass murderer of the Mundy in the Mundy world. And he comes back and Gretel tries to reason with him. And he thinks that she has somehow been infected or twisted, so he kills Gretel. Thinking that she's no longer, because she defends the witch, saying that it's the law. She seems to have really changed. She's become a part of society. We left everything over there and all that. She was trying to reason with him in a rational sense. Well, you can't reason with the irrational, so he kills her. It's a great example of if anybody that's ever read we've all read fairy tales or watched fairy tales through Disney or something like that. These are all the fairy tale characters brought to life, and they become real characters with real flaws and real issues. And a lot of their flaws directly relate to who they were in their original Fable stories. So this Hansel and Gretel issue. It fits into the whole overarching story, but it was like a one-off single issue, and I really enjoyed it. So it's just kind of an off-the-cuff thing, but it's another book that I'm enjoying going through and rereading right now to re-experience these characters, and I want to get caught up because they got a big crossover going on right now with Fables, Jack of Fables, and a miniseries called The Literals. And it's a big crossover story dealing with this peace that they quote-unquote have made with the adversary. And the world doesn't look like it's going to be so peaceful. Because it seems like the adversary's crew has a whole other plan, and Prince Charming in the Fable community doesn't necessarily trust them either. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins out in this whole thing, but it's a huge battle is brewing. So I want to get to the point where I'm caught up with that. Well, that's not that I'm caught up. I've read it all the way through. I just want to reacquaint myself with everybody again beforehand because it's just great. Now, your status on Fables?
Because I'm going through the trades, reading the trades. And
where are you at on Fables?
The second trade.
Okay, so you're just getting into it. There's a lot to read. Yeah.
And there's so many out there that I'm like, so what I do is when I travel, I usually bring 2 or 3 trades, and that's what I read. So it's, the next, road trip I take, I'll probably maybe grab some more Fables or some more 100 Bullets.
Fables is one of my favorite Vertigo books. It's just a great, great series, and it's why I wanted to talk about it now with what I'm doing and going back through periodically like this. And I will put the issue number in the show notes so I don't spoil that for anybody who doesn't want to hear it. But I think it's interesting. It's a great book, and I do want to shout it out. Jack of Fables, the same thing. It's funny. It's 2 books set in the same universe, but 2 very different flavors of the 2 books.
Jack is one of those where he's just a little SOB that
but it's fun. It's a fun book.
I'm like, if I knew him in real life, I'd really want to smack the crap out of him. But I'm enjoying reading it because he is that little smarmy little
I have a lot of confidence with them taking over JSA, Willingham and Sturgis, because of how good the whole Fables universe has been. And they're dealing with a lot of characters. They managed to give all the characters screen times and strong identities, which was something that Johns was doing so well with JSA with the sheer number of characters in it. So I have a lot of confidence that these guys can bring that same thing to the table with JSA. So it's one of the reasons why I'm just excited. So I thought it was kind of a good time to talk about Fables as well and what I'm enjoying about it. Dude, I so want to talk heavily about Battle for the Cowl #2. This is my event. I'm a bad guy. And I just got to say, this series not only continues to deliver, but Issue 1 was excellent, and issue 2 to me improved upon that.
Yeah, issue 2 had me just, going hoorah moments. And, we sit here and we always argue, and when they had as-bats in, you saw a harder edge of Batman. You didn't see the detective. And we're seeing that now with Jason in the costume. And I gotta say, I know this is wrong to say, but I really like this, double-fisted, two guns a-blazing, cold-hearted killer as Batman. I ate that up. I was like, yes, this is what Jason Todd would do if he put on the cape and cowl. And I ate it up.
The gang war between Penguin and Two-Face heating up to the manipulations of the Black Mask. I'm really curious to see what happens when these two find out it was him behind it all along. The question is, will they find out too late? I think the new Batman is going to have some major problems to clean up in Gotham during his tenure because of everything that's being laid out for him. So it's going to be an interesting place to see what Gotham looks like come June.
Now, there's something that's been nagging at the back of my head, and it's the Black Mask. Do you think that's actually is the Black Mask, or do you think this is somebody else, kind of like...
Black Mask. I don't think we know why and how he's back.
Okay, because I was thinking it's a fake. And I don't know who the fake could be or why they're doing it, but just something is like telling me that it's somebody wearing a Black Mask outfit that's saying they're the Black Mask, that's trying to play, and I was initially thinking maybe, someone like Riddler could pull it off, or Hush. But Hush is currently incarcerated in that, prison that they set up. So I'm like, that's what I'm like, could this be somebody else?
It's my personal feeling, I got to be honest with you, my personal feeling is that it's Black Mask. I think it is Black Mask, and we're going to find out how he's back. And he's got an axe to grind.
Yeah, he's a little bit
because it fits Black Mask. What's happening right now really is a vintage Black Mask. Jason is so totally the guy that said he would become a better Batman in the DC Nation teaser a while back. He's analyzing Bruce's methods. He's seeking to improve upon it. Interesting twist that Bruce was worried that Jason would become an eventual enemy and took him under his wing to teach him a different path. Jason's nature rebelled against this, though, and it's funny. I think that's why the audience was always mixed down the middle on whether or not he should live or die. You could see that Bruce's influence was working, but also that there were elements to him that would perhaps make him fight against that. It'd be interesting to see what would have happened if Jason had lived instead of died. What path would he have taken in comics? As Robin, if he'd continued on, where would that have gone? I'd almost like to see DC publish a what-if style series for questions like that. I've always enjoyed that book from Marvel for that reason, and I would love to see that. Except, it's funny, when I'm talking about this, I would love to see like a mini-series or multiple issues on what if Jason Todd stayed as Robin? What would that have looked like? And would he have eventually cracked in a different way? And what would that have been like? I don't know. Or would Bruce have succeeded? Jason actually has some interesting points here. Dick did let Batman as a concept get buried. He could have taken the mantle and used it as a symbol in Gotham at any time. The city needs Batman. Dick provided Jason with this opportunity. Jason is currently Dick's responsibility. And that's one of the things that I really liked how this is set up. I also liked seeing Jason versus Damian for a few reasons. It made me think of another motivation for Dick to take Damian under his wing. Hopefully he can save this boy in a way that Bruce wasn't able to save Jason. Or will history repeat itself? I don't know. Dick is a very different person, and perhaps Dick's approach can make him succeed with Damian in a way that Bruce couldn't with Jason. So that'll be an interesting exploration. I'm curious to see how it pans out in the long run. I'm sure it's not going to be an easy ride, but will certainly be entertaining and interesting to follow, and I'm into this. I do believe that Jason does feel that he really wants the same thing as Dick and Bruce, to save Gotham and to put away these and finish these criminals. He just feels that they are wrong to compromise and hold back. His shooting Damian as a means to an end shows the twisted philosophical difference. He feels it's justified to keep him out on the streets to complete his mission, which is interesting. I actually feel Jason totally believes he understands the world in a way that others don't, and that's what makes him such an intriguing character to follow. Dick holds back Huntress and Black Canary from hunting down Jason, taking ownership himself, and I loved seeing those two characters of Huntress and Black Canary together again. Their relationship development of Birds of Prey was totally awesome, and there's something about seeing them together. It's the band's back together again for a little bit. I like seeing that. Black Mask appears out for revenge, but also domination over Gotham. He wants to take the city to its darkest in order to rule over it. Atom Bomb and Firefly. Those moments were great, as he's putting together a squad in a plan that shows what a psychological villain Black Mask is. This reminds me a great deal of what I liked about characters like Bane when he was introduced. It's not just about the action, but that the actions aren't random. They have a driven goal and a motivation to achieve this larger evil goal. This makes you hate the villains even more, but also feel that there's a genuine threat and a genuine intimidation factor. I really ate that up.
This is a villain that could win very easily. You're seeing the strategy. You're seeing his team dynamics. It's not just throw out there, cause evil my minions. No, he's hitting. These are surgical strikes. Taking two people's strengths, working them together, for a common goal. I was just like eating that up. Just, this is, the development type that we see in heroes. We're seeing that in villains. Mm-hmm. And I love intelligent villains. That's, I was like, yes, I want more on this guy. I want, more seeing who's he going to, what's going to be the end result? How are they going to defeat him? Is it going to be a combined effort? Will it be Batman one-on-one versus them? Will it be Riddler, Two-Face and Penguin who realize what's going on and they strike him down? There's so many what's going to happen questions that just keeps me wanting, I'm chomping at the bit for the next issue.
Or will the police figure it out first?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be the new Batman? Who knows? Jason takes intimidation to new levels. Not only will he kill, but he will torture to whatever level necessary to get information. In his mind, he feels bringing gunplay and the fact that Batman will kill to the table will bring fear to criminals in a way that Bruce never could. That's where he feels the code's out of date and the code never worked. Stick to the shadows, stick and move, come in, kill, intimidate, be something larger. He's, taking that to an intense level that and a line that Bruce would never cross. Where this works is that he has a point. Where it fails is that he loses all the respect of the resources and the trust that Bruce worked so hard to build with the Gotham City Police Department and Jim Gordon. He crossed the line. I'm wondering what these ramifications will have for the new Batman. Are they going to realize that, are they going to trust the new guy? Because Jim Gordon's no dummy. He's going to know that it's not Bruce under the cowl.
And he's going to know that it's Nightwing. Mm-hmm. He's had enough now dealings with Nightwing that, and I'm assuming here that Dick's going to actually end up putting on the cowl.
Has to be.
When he first I think we're going to get like that scene where the first meeting he had with when he put it on after Asbats, where he looks at him and goes, "Okay, you're not the other guy. We're all right here. What's going on?" We're going to get that type of acknowledgement. Plus, I think we're going to see.
He didn't say we were all right there when he had that meeting. He actually noticed that the size difference was there in the presence. He was still untrusting because of it. And actually, what was great about it is that whole situation, because it went from Bruce to Asbats to then to Dick Grayson. When Bruce came back, there was a major confrontation between the two of them because he's like, "Is it really you?" Because he's like, we've seen 700 other people in the outfit now, so, is it you or not? I like that Jim Gordon is smart enough, and the police work to show that this is not the same guy. I need to, I'm trusting a guy who wears a mask. Is it you? Is it not?
and I'm thinking we're going to get a public fight between Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. I'm thinking this is going to be one of those things where they're fighting for Gotham in the streets of Gotham, and in the end there you're going to see Grayson deliver the final knockout blow, and people will say, okay,
Batman's back.
That's Batman. Batman's back. So that's my guess, and I'm thinking we're not going to have a resolution to the Black Mask stuff in Battle for the Cowl.
Oh, no. I think this is setting. I think what we're seeing with Black Mask and Two-Face and Penguin, we may not even see a resolution with the Two-Face and Penguin versus Black Mask. That I think is going to be potentially an ongoing thread into the new series, where we're going to have multiple camps of villains fighting for Gotham.
Yeah.
Tim finds the JT cave, and I'm wondering how long Jason worked on that. Do you think he was building this since his return to Gotham? Was he planning all along to take over the mantle? You can't build something like that overnight. So how long did it take to do this? It's interesting.
I think that's been his base of operations since he returned to Gotham. And I don't know if he was planning on becoming the next Batman, but he was just, it's a good, structure, it's a good design, and he's like, okay, I'm going to go with this. And part of it probably was a little bit of a twisted you to Batman. I'm going to make my own cave. I'm going to make my own Bat cave. I think that's...
His inner dialogue early in the issue, though, makes me think that this was one of his goals all along. As Red Hood, he was coming in and trying to do Batman right in his eyes.
Yeah.
Because he feels Batman failed him because he wouldn't take that step of killing. Whereas if he'd killed the Joker earlier on, nothing would have ever happened to him. It's his MO. That's his thinking. So philosophically, he feels Batman's code is wrong. And he's got a twisted sense of this is what justice should be. So it's interesting. He's a skewed character. He's psychologically messed up.
He's just misunderstood. He's a good kid.
Catwoman shows up on the scene, and I'm glad Selina knew who was under the cowl when she saw Tim. Like, she started to, you could tell right away there's a familiarity there. I liked that. I mean, that was a neat little, she would have had enough run-ins with Robin that she would have known.
She knows who they are, yeah.
Alfred is the DCU MVP once again. This is excellent dialogue. No one can be him, but someone can represent what he stood for. The ideals that made Batman. Justice, consequence, an ironclad resolve to protect. And there is none other that has the wherewithal to uphold these ideals than you, Richard Grayson. And you see Dick Grayson standing there. I'm like,
The bats in the background, dude.
Yeah.
I was hearing the dun 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 dun.
Another twist, though, during that sequence. Did you notice that Damian woke up and heard all this during that sequence?
Yeah.
That panel. Interesting. If he, his motivation to follow Dick will come from a second chance to learn about his father. So there'll be an interesting twist there. Batman scared you into thinking these guys are special. Yeah, the new DA was so a red shirt. They were totally pointing the finger at the Penguin, and now Black Mask sends in a killer to claim it was Two-Face. The new DA is dead, but even more important, we see Gordon has been reinvigorated. His one-shot showed a rally cry, and throwing away the cigarettes shows he plans to be more active. We're going to see a more aggressive Gotham City Police Department post-Battle for the Cowl, and I think this is going to make Gotham an even more interesting place to read about. So, I already love Gotham, but it's citizens. We're going to be seeing more life out of them. Love that the one page of Black Mask with his arms outstretched, basking in the chaos. That was such a beautiful shot. And like you said, Dick swirling with the bats, around the cave, showing his acceptance of who he is and who he needs to be coming out of all this. Jason versus Tim. Jason offering Tim the choice. Join me and be my new Robin, or you just can't be saved. And his idea of can't be saved is, you're going to be roadkill. You're right. I see my reflection in your eyes, and it's me kicking your... Jason has to hate the crowbar at this stage. He's willing to stab Tim in the gut and leave him to die, eliminating the possible threat to his claiming the mantle and proceeding with his future. Do you feel that Jason feels it's necessary to eliminate the last remnants of Bruce's philosophy to take over and evolve the mantle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if he's 100% behind becoming the next Batman, that means he must eliminate all competition. He has to defeat them and get them out of the picture. He must be the only one left. There can be only one.
I want to see Dick Grayson school this guy in the worst way.
Now,
what a build-up to a fight.
Now, is he going to... Here's my thing, because when he first was there, he was looking and he was looked like he was accepting it, but he looks and he sees the one costume gone that Tim took. Mm-hmm. Do you think at that point in time he put on another cape and cowl, or did he grab his Nightwing mask again and go out as Nightwing?
I think he's putting on the cape and cowl.
See, I don't know. I was thinking that when he sees Tim, bloody and dying in the cowl, he's going to say, "Okay, that's it. It's on now."
Interesting.
And put it on then. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm kind of leaning both ways, but part of me is leaning that he still hasn't put on the cowl yet. That when he sees the damn near dead Tim, that's what's going to be the final straw. That's going to be the final thing that pushes him saying, "Yes, I must become Batman."
See, I think Alfred already got him, though. Because to me, those scenes lose something where you see the bats swirling around him. You see him when he says, "You, Richard Gray." I mean, if at that point he hasn't clicked, there's a problem. Because that conversation with Alfred to me is pivotal. I think at this point he should know, and he should take that stand.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. I'm not sure. I can't say 100% which way I think he's going to go.
I think we're going to see Batman versus
Imposter. I know. Yeah, I'm thinking Batman versus Jason Todd.
That's what I think we're seeing.
Yeah. I'm hoping for that.
So I don't think we're going to see him Nightwing. I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed if it was, but that's kind of my thought. Can I talk casually about Batman Confidential? Because there's been a couple arcs that have come out that I just kind of want to throw out. First of all, the Joker arc, I'm just going to talk about this real quick. I like this series a lot because it leads to, like, first appearances of different things. In this case, it was funny how this whole Joker thing and, like, how do we capture Joker? Where do we put Joker? You know, is Joker's too crazy to go to jail, but he's too dangerous to keep in a psych ward? And it shows that this Arkham Asylum that was going to be like this community has now been taken by the city and replaced with an insane asylum. I really liked how that whole series kicked off. And this is where I got twisted. On our last episode that you and I got to chat, I made the mistake of saying that it was the first appearance of another character, when it actually was King Tut that I was talking about from the TV show. The 60s TV show creation of King Tut appeared for the first time in a very recent arc in Batman Confidential. Did you read that by any chance?
Which one?
The King Tut arc of Batman Confidential?
Yes.
The one that just rang up? Riddler and the Batman teaming up, and I love that the riddles from King Tut's M.O. lead to the Riddler wanting to help because he took offense to this. Just such a great arc. Gotham's crime leads this museum to want to avoid bringing the exhibit to Gotham. The professor rallying for this exhibit is outraged, bangs his head during his tantrum, and takes as his attempt on his life to silence him because he's trying to bring to light that King Tut was killed or murdered because of his beliefs, and it's this whole interesting twist. He feels this connects him to Tut, and he becomes Tut and uses the riddles to drive his sacrifices. They use the riddles to predict where he's going to kill next. The interplay between the Riddler and Bruce is priceless. I loved the little tiny background scenes with Gordon complaining to a fellow officer that Batman didn't ask him to bring the criminal here as a source. You know, it would have been nice if he filled me in on this one. It's just such an interesting and great series, and one that I've been just enjoying reading. So I wanted to talk real quick about Batman Confidential because it's a fun series. Great artwork by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Our friend and colorist David Barron did the color work on this. Inker Kevin Nolan was on it. It was just a gorgeous and very good-looking series. So if you missed those issues, it's the first appearance of King Tut. I want to correct myself. I was saying that, I forget what character I even said that it was the first
Maxie Zeus.
Maxie Zeus, you're right. Maxie Zeus was a comic creation. It's King Tut. Because I was reading both of these at the same time, I was getting my wires crossed. King Tut was the character from the 60s Batman show that had never appeared in comics before. This is the first appearance in comics. So that was the one I was talking about. So Maxie Zeus was the one that I crossed wires with. So I want to correct myself. Mart sent me an email and pointed it out to me that, are you sure that Maxie Zeus was from the TV series? And the second that he said it, I'm like, oh, doggone it. I'm getting my wires crossed with the King Tut story I'm reading at the same time.
It's a common mistake.
Zeus
and King Tut, one's ancient Greek, and the other one's, ancient
It's kind of hard when you read
Egypt,
so many comics. Sometimes you get things.
I can see how you get the two confused. They're so similar.
Do you want me to throw you under the bus for some of your recent comments that I defended you on? Or do you want to stop there?
Hey, let's talk about...
What do you want to talk about now?
Mine. I'm
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern 39 Agent Orange. Oh my god, dude. I was eating this up. And same thing with the Green Lantern Corps. Mm-hmm. This has just been some great Green Lantern reading, and I am just, as things go on, as these are going on, as we're learning more of the colors, we're seeing more of these characters, more laws of OR getting just crushed and destroyed. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is an event. We thought Sinestro Corps War was huge, which it was. Mm-hmm. It's nothing compared to this. Everything that I had in my head as to where this thing is going to go, I'm just throwing them out and saying, I'm not going to make any more predictions. I'm just going to hold on, enjoy the ride.
That's a great series for me, too. And I love the artwork now. We're getting that Philip Tan artwork.
Yeah, some beautiful stuff.
Really a sharp-looking book. I'm curious, too, to see as these characters come in, the different politics. And because it's really, we're seeing the Guardians are really going to some extremes there. And, there's going to come a point where, and we've talked about this before, the Lanterns are going to have to take a good, long, hard look at the Guardians.
Yeah. They're also gonna have to take a good hard look at themselves, seeing why they're doing this. Why are they, Green Lanterns? Why are they, Blue Lanterns, Yellow Lanterns? There's going to be some. At the end of this, I think we're still going to have all the colors of the spectrum out there. But I think there's going to be I want to say an unwritten rule that certain people are going to stay away from other people. Certain people are going to, be associated with, we're seeing Hal has both rings now. He has a blue and a green, and it's kind of messing him up.
And he wants it gone.
Yeah, and that was something that really was throwing me off, because the blue is hope. And he's like, there is no hope. And I'm like, come on, Hal, there is hope. You've seen, what good people can do, when they band together and whatnot. So part of me is wondering if it's, feedback from the two. Maybe it's still his Red Lantern influence in him. He's got him going through right now a huge emotional spectrum just with what he's dealt with in the, throughout these last couple issues. So
the last few years.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if what happens to Hal.
What will make him find hope.
Yeah.
And it was funny how they like Gantet knows that Hale's not going to find that until he's with Sinestro.
Yeah.
And is it going to be that he finds hope for Sinestro? And that's what's going to make him drop the blue ring.
I kind of have a theory, on that. And when we talk about Green Lantern Corps, I'll bring it up then.
But that's... Yeah. Well, the Green Lantern Corps totally ties into this, because I know where you're going with that. It was interesting for me, though, to see that Gantet's let the Blue Lanterns know that when he was telling them that Hal was going to be a leader for them, that he didn't mean that Hal was going to wear a blue ring. Yeah. And interesting, that clarification that he never meant for Hal to have that on his finger.
Yeah, it's... But I tell you,
I like it though. It's a neat little twist.
Well, and I like sometimes we talked about the artwork. You would see the Green Lantern logo, but it would be blue.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it would shift back to green, and it would you could see the conflict of the two different colors. Sometimes he was split down the middle. Sometimes just his one arm, and it was just slipping through and dividing around. I really ate that up. And we talked briefly about the Orange Lanterns, but these are another character. Like with the Red, they were pure rage. They weren't thought as much. There wasn't any cognitive, there was no cognitive acceptance of the ring. It just took you over because of your rage. We're seeing with these Orange Lanterns, there is some cognitive thought behind it. There is some, entity that is the Orange Lantern that we're going to learn more about him. And he had some long time deal with the Guardians, which is why they stayed out of Vega. So we're seeing that has been broken. So now we have this new core coming out. My guess is their oath is going to be something about mine, because that's their favorite word. As they see it, want it, and take it. Oh yeah, their greed makes sense. And I ate that up. And then they take out the Yellow Lantern, so I like seeing these different colors willing to fight each other, but they mark the Green Lantern. And it was just basically a marking just to let the Guardians know, hey, we're back. We're done now. You broke the coven. We're coming out swinging, which is going to lead to who fired first, who broke the rules first, who is to blame. And if you keep doing the blame game, you're not going to look at the whole thing behind it. Because when they bring Stell back to the Guardians, and he's got the orange marking on his chest, which bursts the orange dude out of him, who is it that takes out the orange guy before he can do any talking? Of course, it's the scarred Guardian, the Dark Guardian, the Evil Guardian, whatever you want to whatever you want to call him.
Who they're totally slipping under the radar.
Right.
Nobody's catching that this Guardian's actually deep below on Oa and causing and setting up and putting players into place for what is going to be Blackest Night.
Yeah, so it's, and the thing is, when the orange dude popped up first, I think he recognized him because he said, you. So I think that's the guy who's, initiating everything. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing he's initiating. I'm not, shedding some new light into something, but it's
actually right there.
Yeah. Right? So I'm loving that we're getting this build, and I'm waiting for the moment when everybody realizes it. What's going to happen to the Corps when they realize it was one of their guardians who did this? You think back when Sinestro first turned. That really was a shot in the gut to the Green Lantern Corps that one of them could turn evil. And then when what's her name became the Red Lantern, that was also a shot in the gut. That one of them could turn. Well, now we have a Guardian who has turned. How is that going to mess things up? We're looking at some huge political uprisings, and things are not going to be the same in the Green Lantern universe after all this said and done. So that's another thing, just anticipation of the story, but the anticipation of the aftermath as well is just two huge things.
And Green Lantern Corps is a great example. My favorite new Lantern, and actually one of my favorite, honestly, if I had to put on a list of my top 5 favorite Lanterns, she is one of my top 5 favorite Lanterns. Her character development has just been outstanding. The reveal with her, I feel like I should have seen that, and I love that I didn't, because it was a nice little shock. I don't know, did you see that coming?
Yes and no, kind of. It was one of those things where on the forums we were having a discussion, and I'm pretty sure it was Ziggo who first threw it out there saying, hey, could she possibly be Sinestro's daughter? And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking that. I was thinking that too, but didn't when they first introduced her in Green Lantern Recharge, I thought they gave her a full family
I thought they did
expression.
as well.
So I was kind of confused there, but I love it.
I have to go back and reread it now, though, because of that, so it's interesting. See what her origin was.
In that. Or it's...
Because I've loved her since Recharge. But it's been so long. Like, Recharge is one of those I haven't gone back and reread since it came out. So I'd love to go back and reread that now. And that's something that probably, like, her parent background at the time is probably something that didn't really stick out to me.
Yeah.
Which either it could be that she doesn't know everything about her history, or I'm curious to see. I'm going to go back and reread Recharge now because of this.
And we're talking about Green Lantern Corps 35. And just that opening sequence with the jailbreak. I love that. And, they talked about it at New York. They said it was going to happen. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to see it. And it delivered. Starts off with the Red Lantern killing the Green. And all the Yellows like, yeah, we're going to get out. And as soon as the first one gets out, he gets killed. Because Red isn't, the friend of Yellow. They're killing everybody and anything in their way. They're just pure rage and hatred, so they want to destroy the world.
But to add further chaos to the whole thing, Scar releases the rings.
Oh, yeah.
Releases the yellow rings, which now adds an entire thing of chaos to the whole mess. Because now they've got their powers back, and
it assemble every lantern there present to the science cell. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a frickin' drill. If I was sitting there and I was a lantern and I heard Guy Guardian have a little bit of panic in his voice, what'd I say?
Guy Guardian.
You know what I meant.
Sorry.
A little misspeak on my part. Sorry, but think about it, though. He's got...
like Maxie Zeus and King Tut?
Exactly.
Yeah. You know I'm watching you like a hawk right now.
The funny thing is, when I was saying that stuff, I'm thinking, Jim, shut your mouth.
Mouth shut, because he's going to nail me every chance he gets now.
But you know what? That intelligent part of me just kind of shut off for the funny. So, okay, but, panic in Guy's voice, and granted, he wasn't like panic fear, but there was an urgency in his voice. You could just tell the way the way they drew his face, the way they drew everything, and like, oh yeah, I would be scrambling. And I love the fact that they did some more team tactics. One half went high, one half went low. They're expecting them to come through the front door. Fine, we'll drop in underneath them. A 2-flank assault. That's, classic, military classic police entry procedure. You don't just send in a team through the front door. You send in a backup team through the back door, through the side entrance, an alternate way that maybe they can cover each other. And I was just, I always eat that up in the core when I read that type of stuff, just because it fits and it's, yes.
Very cool.
But the funny thing is that issue wasn't the only stuff. We had that stuff on Daxam. And it was funny. I was reading this going, yeah, this is an awesome issue. Then I flip and go, oh, yeah, we got even more stuff to go on. And that whole Daxam stuff was just amazing. The more I'm reading about Sodom, I like him. Well, I really like this guy. We're going to be getting
more Sodom coming up in Legion of Three Worlds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a character that we're seeing in multiple time stream. You know, we're seeing him in the present and the future. He's become a very interesting character to me, very well developed since his one-shot.
Yeah, and the more I learn about his people, his parents, the more I'm siding with him on this.
Me
Man,
too.
these guys are a bunch of putzes. When they first started, I was like, come on, dude, relax. Okay, yeah, you had a rough childhood, but, you are a hero. You got to do your job. Now I completely understand what he was saying initially when he's saying, hey, let the world crumble. I don't care. I'm kind of siding with him on that, It was just like one of those, kind of, slap in the face to anybody who has ever fought for anything, anybody who ever had any passion, or beliefs in something. They're backed up against the wall. They're trapped in caves. So what's their brave, bold plan? Oh, let's just fling ourselves off the cliff and die. I'm like, what? What? You're not going to fight back? Come on, and it just... Every bit of fiber of my being, I'm reading this going, oh my God, let them die. And I was kind of even laughing along.
They're very cult-like.
I was laughing along with the Yellow Lanterns. Granted, I was rooting for them. Because you say, oh, see how that guy bounced? I'm like, yeah, I'd be probably laughing that way too. Yes, it's sick, it's wrong, but these guys are just like, I'm like, what the heck is going on? What's wrong with you people? Your people are being enslaved.
You want to shake them, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to smack him around. And then even when he shows up, they still are like, okay, you do all the fighting, we'll sit back here. When you've cleared it up, hey, then we'll go back to life as we did it before. Wrong. You want to win, you want to save your people, you got to knuckle up. It's time for you to start fighting.
It goes back to the whole thing, though. It's how do you want to go out? Do you want to go out and be remembered? Do you want to go out fighting? If you know you're going to die and you have no choice, you know that there is no possible way for survival, that's where I do think you get a little courage at that point and just kind of say, all right, I'm going no matter what. I'm going to decide.
Yeah.
And it's not jumping off a cliff.
Yeah. If I'm going down swinging. Hopefully I'll take one of them with me is how I want to go if I'm in that circumstance.
Right.
Now, granted, if I could stay alive by doing something else, I will.
Agreed. Like if I knew I'm jumping into, a big lake, something where I'm like, okay, I'm going to survive this. All right, then I'm jumping. Okay, because survival, anybody, if you're smart, you're going to survive. That's your overall goal. But if you're going to jump off a cliff and die, I'm going to go out at least, they're not going to laugh at me bouncing. I'm going to get a punch in or something, and maybe that's all I'm going to get. But I'm going to go out, with some self-respect.
Yeah. I'm going to at least get one punch in. Maybe it'll be absolutely nothing. It'll hit an energy bubble. They'll laugh at me and smack me around. But you know what? At least I'm trying. At least I'm going down swinging. It's, you gotta, it's just that, it's that the man's got to do what a man's got to do type thing. But it's also just, you have to fight for life. You have to, rage on. You can't just lay down and die. It's, something, I think, I want to say something in the genetic code of who we are.
Right.
But it's not. It's about who the person is. And there's so many times in life when you're given that one opportunity where it's do or die time. Now, maybe it's not even a do or die time. Maybe it's life not threatening. Maybe it's that one chance when you're right there in front of the boss and you got this idea. Do you open up your mouth? Do you say, hey, why don't we try this? Or do you just sit back quietly and let somebody else step up and take the glory? Is it, you see that, good looking girl in the bar and you want to talk to her? Do you get the nerve to step up, to man up and say, hey, how you doing? My buddies just paid me $20 to try to, score with you. It's that type of stuff that you got. Little callback.
A little twist in the head.
but seriously.
And offer her a 10. Yeah.
Exactly. I'll split it with you, baby.
Wow.
Little callback. Come on.
Do you think Sornik knows that Sinestro is her father? I'm guessing she doesn't, and this is going to be very hard for her to deal with.
Yeah, there was a pure look of shock on her face when he first stepped up and revealed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was just seeing Sinestro there or if it was the shock. My guess is it was the shock of the truth that, this is my father. And I think we're going to get a cool moments the next issue where she reads him the riot act saying, hey, what's going on here?
Do you think she's going to believe it?
I think we're going to get the Luke Skywalker, no! And then she'll have the realization, oh, yeah, that does kind of make sense. Yeah, I'm generational ring slinger. Oh, great. I think we're going to get that. And
I'm glad we found, I don't know if this is the intention all along with her, I don't really care if it was the intention all along with her or not, or if it's something that after the fact said, hey, it'd be cool if we did this with her. I'm glad we got to know her really well before they did this.
Yeah.
Because it's all the more interesting the same way it was with Luke Skywalker. That's actually a great comparison, because I think if we found out in the first Star Wars movie that Vader was Luke's dad, it wouldn't have been as cool when we eventually did find out. And this fits the same bill, for the same reasons. Arisia is another character that I'm glad to see her being featured in the book, because I loved her relationship with Hal back in the day. I always thought she was a really cool Lantern character, and I'm glad that she's back. The core, just having this book back, has provided an opportunity for new and classic characters to be brought back into the DC universe, and it's really added something to my reading right now to have those characters back. So it's just kind of she hasn't had a ton done with her at the moment, but she's one of those characters I love seeing, because it feels classic to me, and I think it's a nice nod for fans. Like Kilowog, same thing. And these are characters
you got to see him every so often, and
but I like the mix of the new Lanterns as well. So I think that there's been some nice development. Our Ran and Thanagar Lanterns were great examples of two other Lanterns that I think are just great. So I mean, it's kind of I'm enjoying this book a great deal because of that.
And we're talking about it, and we didn't even mention our Kilo with his severed tongue hanging around his neck.
How cool was that?
I know. It's a reminder. A reminder of what? You want to ask him?
Yeah. He can't answer yet.
Man, that for me, I was just like, oh. And now I'm thinking that was round one. I'm thinking we're going to see a round two.
Arkilla versus Maya. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to see a round two. Right now, he's waiting, biding his time, picking his shot. And he saw the Green Lanterns coming in. Now, he's either thinking, good, kill them, or good, they kill Mogul. I'm not sure what his mindset is. If it was any other Yellow Lantern, I would think he was hoping they would do the job for him. I'm thinking with Arkillo, he's hoping they'll provide the distraction that he can use to get his hands on Mogul.
I found another use for Ragdoll's Frutastic things. It keeps your tongue fresh. If you're going to wear it around your neck.
I was thinking you were going to go with finger puppets.
Well, you could do that
you
too.
You put it on your fingers and you do a little show.
Hey guys, especially because they'll be different colors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Too funny,
dude. We're idiots.
Yeah. I do. Do you want to talk Superman books real quick?
Yeah, I think I'll talk some Superman.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about in the Superman books.
I tell you, Action Comics 876, man, I love Ursa. I absolutely just 100% heartfelt, deep emotional love for this woman. And it's, she is one of those wonderful, magnificent villains that she's not one-sided.
The movie Mommy Dearest.
Oh, yeah.
She's like a very harsh version of Mommy Dearest.
My nomination for Mother of the Year, right there, man. Just, oh my God. But the thing is, she's not just the mindless puppet of Zod.
Yeah.
And I kind of saw her as that through all my previous experiences. Yeah, I saw her as a soldier, and she's a soldier following orders, but I didn't really see the psychotic, twisted nature of her, and just her inner dialogue throughout this issue, where she's just talking about Zod is the planner. He gets that's his. Victory. He loves the preparation, the strategy, the tactics. She's the doer. She's the action. He's the general. She's the weapon. Love that line. And just as she's going through, she's talking about it's the anticipation of the fight.
She shows, though, that she respects him, but also knows that he respects her for her usefulness. So that's why she's so loyal to him as well. Not just for that love that's between them, but also it's because she feels how useful she is.
But here's the thing. That was one of the things I was thinking about. Is there actually love between Zod and Ursa? See, I don't know. I'm thinking it's more of a symbiotic relationship that they both need something from it. Zod's the planner. Zod's the tactician. He's the guy who's going to say this, this, this. Ursa's his dog. Ursa's the one who's going to do the job. He's got something that needs to be done. It's her. And she knows he's going to give him what she wants.
You don't think on a philosophical level they agree with each other and that there's that? I think it's deeper than that.
I do think they agree philosophically, but I don't think okay, for me, when I'm thinking love between characters, I'm thinking of the kind of love that Lois and Clark have. The kind of love that Ollie and Dinah have. Just that, that pure love of each other and the company. If they weren't...
I don't see Zod giving his life for Ursa, if that's where we're going with this.
And it's...
I think in their mind... they might feel that they love each other, but you're right. It's not the kind of love that... And I agree with you. Actually, I will say I agree totally where you're going with this. I think in their own twisted way, though, they feel that they do. I think their understanding would be that Ursa would give her life for Zod.
Yeah.
But that's not the other way around.
Yeah, Zod won't give his life for anybody because he is Zod. You should give your life for him. Mm-hmm. And I think she honestly would give her life for him. I think so, too. And I think
there's an adoration there. You're right. It's not love in the sense
it's a loyalty. It's a respect.
Adoration.
It's
adoration.
Yeah. So, and I liked seeing that. Plus, I like seeing just the deep level of thinking behind her. She's not just this psychotic animal. She's she herself has her own strategy, her own tactics.
I think he loves her, though, in the way that he's capable of. Which,
you know what? In his own way.
I guess what I'm saying is I totally agree with you. Like, your explanation of it, I totally 110% agree with. So we are seeing things exactly the same way. But I do feel that in their own twisted way, there is a love thing there, but it's not. You're right. It's not. It's not fair to compare it to.
It's not fairy tale. It's not what normal people have.
No,
it's their own. Version.
It's not what you would see if Deadshot and Jeanette, for example, if they go farther. They will have a different loving relationship than Zod and Ursa ever could.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting little. Twist there. You're right. I like that.
Plus, I love seeing the mind game she played on Thera.
Oh, yeah.
That was just absolutely beautiful because she's sitting there and she's taunting her with her family. Like, yeah, you remember your parents, how they died? Yeah, you could have saved them, but you were a coward. You couldn't do anything to help them. And she's just egging her on. And the whole time, she's tracking her.
Right, and she's breaking down the emotional drive. And she's using that as a way to assault her. Yeah. But then she continues the psychological warfare with the physical violence, with the knife. Letting her know what she's doing to her as she's doing it. Showing a confidence that, Thera is no...
Yeah, she's not a pushover.
No.
But the difference being is, Ursa is a true warrior. Mm-hmm. Thera is a fighter. She knows what she can do,
Ursa's a killer.
Yeah.
Thera's not a killer.
Yeah.
I would argue that Thera's a warrior in the sense that she's probably been trained to fight and for combat and all that, but she's not a killer. And I think that's the distinction, whereas Ursa's not only a killer, Ursa's an experienced killer.
Yeah, she's an assassin.
Will not hold back, will not surrender. She will torture. She will maim. She has a total disregard for life, whereas Thera clearly respects life.
Yeah. Definitely. And I like the fact that, though, one of the biggest things that I always say is never fight, with your heart. Always got to use your mind. Mm-hmm. Never lose control of your anger. Never lose your temper in a fight. You always have to have that clearness. And Ursa was playing off of that. She knew if I kept her mad, I could sidestep the strike, hit once. Oh, she tries the heat vision, I could dodge that because she's so enraged. She's not focusing. She's not aiming. She's just firing blindly. Me, I'm going to use the quick slices. Boom, boom, boom. Stick and move type tactics. It's, and even in Ursa's inner dialogue, she's talking about how, control, discipline, she's got raw rage, she's got anger, she's clouded, she doesn't know what she's doing. And it's just like this really cool, just mentally, you're getting into her head and you're seeing, hey, there's more to this psychopath than just a killer. There's more than... She's not just a mindless psychopath killer. She's a strategist just as much as she was saying that Zod is. She's the individual, one-on-one tactics. Zod is the team dynamics, the army, the overall plan, the trying to be 3 stages ahead of your enemy. That's Zod. Ursa is the fighting, in your face, in the trenches type thing, which really shows why those two work so well together, which actually I'm kind of like, damn, this is a neat explanation on them as a couple, as a union, as a partnership, as you want to call it. I was like, oh, this is some really cool stuff. But for me, some of the high moments, even beyond that, I'm like riding a high, going, yeah, this is cool. But it's when Chris steps in.
Oh, yeah.
Chris sees Thera is in trouble, and we see Clark's influence on it. Even won't even answer to his to Zor-Lar. It's, my name is Christopher. And I was just like, oh, he's hurting, he's bleeding, he's bloodied, plus this whatever mutation he's doing doesn't feel good, but he still has to knuckle up. Why? He's not pretending, he's a hero. And that line right there, I was like, I put down the book, and I was like, yes! It's the type of stuff that I really wanted to see from this kid. I wanted to see more of Chris Kent. I wanted to see what he could become and who he is, and I just hope he's able to stick around. I hope we don't lose him.
Here's my question. Chris versus Connor. Because I don't see there being a place for both. I don't know if you disagree with me.
Yeah, it's a toughie. That is a toughie, and
I guess months ago I probably would have had a very different answer for you. I'm starting to really like this guy.
Yeah, see, months ago I would have said hands down bring back Connor, but now I'm like, you know what? If they don't bring back Connor,
this would be a good Superboy.
This would be a good Superboy. I could go with that, or even calling him some other name. I don't know. I could deal with, not having Connor.
Or seeing him as the present-day Superboy and maybe seeing Connor, and I could find a use then. Connor could be the future Superboy.
Yeah,
I don't know. The Legion, so I don't know. I'm curious to see. I'm hoping, I don't know. I'm and I love Connor, so it's not an issue. I'm torn. It's not like I'm saying I prefer one or the other. I would love it if the writers could find a way to get both, because I do miss Connor a great deal.
Yeah, and if it's funny because my main missing of Connor is with the Titans, is with Tim, is with Cassian, seeing him with his old friends and that type of stuff. Whereas Chris, I honestly would follow a solo thing on him.
Sure.
Or even if he were to do, share some time in the Superman title, or share some time in the Action Comics title.
Like a backup feature?
Yeah.
Or even one of those backup features that, like how they're talking about the Green Arrow, Black Canary, how like they're going to be co-features, but they're going to be kind of bleeding into each other. Where when they team up, it'll be one big story. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a place for this kid post. I don't know. I don't know if we've got a timer on him and he's ticking away, or what's going to happen with this kid.
I'm worried that he's got a timer on him, that he's going back into the Phantom Zone or so. I don't know what's going to happen to him, but I don't think he's going to be around after the year.
Or I wonder if they're going to toss him in the Phantom Zone a la the way that they need to toss somebody else back into the Phantom Zone, and he and Mon-El are going to be
hanging out in the Phantom Zone.
And that's going to be the way to keep Chris alive.
Yeah. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, but, the thing I also digged about this was the little tie-in back to when we first saw Ursa last Action Comics. She needed to put the goggles on because of the brightness. So what's Chris do? He takes out the goggles and blinds her with that. Yeah. He's got the kryptonite blade in his hand, but he doesn't use it because Superman doesn't kill, neither will he. I ate that up.
But I loved, too, that it's showing that he's a little bit different than everybody else. Yes, he's weaker and all that, but he also doesn't have some of the weaknesses to the same levels because of that. So it gave him an edge in this case, and he was well aware of it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how he's getting to know himself as all of this is going on. I really liked that distinction and that difference with him.
But the ending was the best, though, with him. He's got Thera in his hand. He needs help. So where does he go? He goes to Mom. Yeah. And I love that. And you just see Lois like, what's going on? That was just... Oh, man. That was just a great moment.
I can't wait to see her reaction and how that comes with it. I mean, this has been so great. World of New Krypton?
World of New Krypton 2. Dude, I am so eating this up. I am loving this. Seeing Clark deal with, one, the day-to-day life of Krypton, the Krypton, the different class structure, and since the beginning, he's had an issues with the class, with the labor class, and just people not being treated as equals. This is Clark. He was raised on a Kansas farm by people who believe that everyone is entitled to the same thing. There were no, class. There was no structure. There was no you're, entitled to more than this person just because who you are. No, everybody's entitled to the same thing. It's that heartland Americana that he was that he was raised in, and you see him butting heads with the Kryptonian society over it. Absolutely love that. But you know what? I talked about before about him being a reluctant leader, and we really saw his leadership style this issue where he's first addressing his troops. And I'll tell you, this right here is what I expect. When I say a leader, this is what I expect. And you've never seen him do this before with the Justice League, with the local police department. Why? It wouldn't fit. Here it fits perfectly. He comes in, locks them to attention. First thing he does is he calms down the thorac. Is that the thing? The Torak. Yeah,
but again,
Torquater.
You wouldn't have seen him do this before because this is a military situation. A military leader isn't the only kind of leader.
Dude, come on, I'm giving you a problem. I'm saying you're right, okay?
Okay.
The whole point of this dialogue is this. When I say this is what I think a leader is, right here you're seeing what most of my main exposure to a good, solid leader is. So when I said before he's a reluctant leader, that's because he wasn't doing this stuff.
But I'll actually defend your little reluctant thing in saying I do think he's a reluctant military leader. I think he's doing this to play a game. He is going into character. He is infiltrating, and he has no intention of staying here.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. This right here, these are some classic military leadership. He came in, he has the very announced presence of authority. Mm-hmm. He's the alpha male in the room, and not only that, he's gonna, he punishes the people who are for acting up by saying, okay, well, we're gonna have you do flying drills all day long. And it was just that very deliberate, very pronounced of that saying.
Well, and I love that he was defending Non.
Yeah.
Again, and I honestly do believe, though, that Clark does believe what they were doing to Non was wrong, and that angered him.
Yeah. Well, not only what they were doing to Non, but also to the animal.
Right.
They're both, that's a wrong way to deal with it. But then in the field, when they're up against the thought beasts, he's not the, you'll do it this way, no, go. No, he's the inspirational type leader that we know from Superman.
Right.
They're flying into it without those deadly guns. Why? Because they don't need them. They have their own weapons. And as people start succumbing to the illusions, like, listen to my voice, follow through, it's not real. And he's pushing them and getting them to fight beyond what they would normally be able to.
Which is stuff we've seen from him.
Right. So this is showing his leadership style, and it was a perfect usage of a shift in leadership style. Had he been barking orders in that situation, it wouldn't have worked.
Agreed.
He needed that inspirational. He needed that, support and guidance leader, not the hard edge.
We see him like this in Crisis, like Our World's at War, and crisis situations like that where Superman takes that leadership role. We've seen him do that too, and that's where he does show that he's a good leader. Barking orders is never the way to accomplish anything. People don't have any respect for your thing. I think a good leader doesn't have to bark. A good leader commands respect.
There are times when the barking orders are needed. And there are times when you have to just, for example, if you're in the middle of a firefight, mm-hmm. you need someone giving a very clear, pronounced, you there, boom, 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 boom. That's what you need. That's where you need the barking.
I don't consider that barking, though.
That's the style. Yeah. It's not, there's the style where it's kind of open up for discussion and its thing, or there's the definitive boom. This is what it is.
I consider barking, though, yelling at someone with a total lack of disrespect. And when you're talking about, maybe my terminology is off on that, so I'll give you that. I have no problem with a military leader or any leader shouting out quick orders that need to be in place because it's a matter of life and death and saving lives. And if I don't yell these orders out, maybe bark them. Okay, right. If I don't yell these orders and bark these orders out, they're not, I'm talking about tone of voice and things like that, though, where it's disrespect. I guess that's just it. I could never see a good leader yelling and screaming with total disrespect and disdain for the people under him. That's never effective. The best units are the ones where you respect your leader to the point when they're yelling out quick orders, and they're barking them fine. I don't care if it's a barking term. It's clear that they're doing it because they respect your life and they want you to live and they want to walk out with their entire unit. They're respecting the people under their command, taking responsibility for their people under their command, and making sure that they're alive and safe. So I guess instead of barking, I should change it that I don't think you need to yell with disrespect and disdain. I don't think you accomplish anything there, because ultimately what will end up happening is on the battlefield, like an Animal House, with what I forget the name of the character at this point in time, but remember he got shot. Yeah, Niedermeyer got shot by his troops because Niedermeyer was shouting at them, I'm sure, with disrespect and disdain. That's, I think, don't be a Niedermeyer on the field. So it's interesting. It's
now, labor relationships on New Krypton. Wow, that's an interesting way to deal with it. Oh, I tell you, I
want to see how Clark gets out of this one.
I saw a preview on on Newsarama, and they said that Clark's basically on trial for treason. And my guess is these are the events that lead him for being on trial for treason, because
was that the summer preview?
Yeah, the summer preview that was on Newsarama. It showed, I guess the cover is Clark with the, that circle type thing that, Zod and them were in, in the movies. So I think we're seeing that same type of thing. And I'm betting this is where it comes from. It stems from stuff like this. Because, Zod's not Zod, Gore's plan was, the labor class is starting to little revolution, so just take 30 members of their class, not related or associated with it in any way, shape, or form, and execute them. Send them a little message. If they don't put down their weapons, take another 30 and execute them. I was like, wow, there's no way Clark's going to stand for that. And that's where he's going to have to stand up against Zod and say you're wrong, or he's going to have to do something, maybe snatch the weapons out of the hands of his people. I don't know what's going to happen.
And see, that's going to be the interesting...
This, I think, is going to be the catalyst.
That's going to be an interesting thing, though, because I think in a trial for treason, Clark will be able to defend himself. Because he really is there for the purpose of helping his people.
But who's going to be the judge? That's my question. Now, with
Alora.
Zod... or will it be Zod? Because he's military. He's the military house. That means the head of the military, will be his judge. And that means the other soldiers will be his judge. Mm-hmm. So, or will it be the science community? Will it be a representative of each of the communities? I don't know how the Kryptonian justice works, or even how it's working now, because we see Zod has a huge position of political influence. So my guess is Zod's going to be his judge, and I don't know. I'm thinking it's going to be a little biased.
Interesting to see what leads to it, though. I'm curious to see how these events play out there with this labor class, because I can't see Clark letting Gore do this.
No, there's no way.
I also don't see... It seems too soon to me, even with that trial, it almost seems too soon for me for Clark to lose his role that he has here. So I think it's not going to be as cut and dry and simple as that. I think he's going to find a clever way out of this for the labor class.
Yeah.
Similar to what he did with the animals.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Because Clark's a smart cookie. So, and that's what I like we're seeing about him. We're seeing a side of Clark that has always been there, and I'm curious to see how that plays out. This has been such a good series. I really like it so far. So, and I know there's an upcoming crossover between the Superman books. They're going to be coming through where all of these titles are going to be crossing over thematically. So,
cool.
More than they are now in the sense there's going to be an arc that crosses over between them. So I want to see how that's going to look like. So this is going to be fun. I'm Superman happy at the moment. Every week there are books that they're my top of the stack books as well. I grab them just as much as I grab books like Batman, Wonder Woman, things like that. Green Arrow, Black Canary is another top of the stack book for me. So this is up there. It's really good. You said you had some stuff on Deathtrap? Do you want to talk about Deathtrap a little bit? I don't know
sure.
I think we'd be kind of remiss to not talk about Deathtrap.
Here's the thing with Deathtrap. For me, I'm just loving how these all just flow through together. Mm-hmm. We're reading really one story arc spread throughout, the 3 different titles. And I'm loving how it's played out so far. With we had the prelude in Titans Annual, part 1 was in Titans 12, and then part 2 was in Vigilante 5. And each one is one boom, 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 boom. And it was just a great, great build. That Annual, that was the calm before the storm. And it even opens up with Aquagirl swimming in the water, and just you see her, nice and refreshing. And you're just like, oh, this is nice and peaceful. You got Eddie, dealing, and Ms. Martian, eating breakfast, and he's kind of trying to deal with the fact that he doesn't have powers. And he should be happy because he's out of his deal with the devil. So he's got his soul back, but he's, what use is he to the team now? And he's got those whole issues. You got, Static getting used to being on the team. Bombshell just, being her, and Cassie, kind of adjusting to the role. And it's just this nice calm. Then all of a sudden the entire tower just goes mad dog sick and starts attacking them. And I ate that up. I was like, oh, this is the way you kick off Deathtrap.
And all because Jericho is using what was inside Cyborg
Yeah.
as a method there. But I love the respect Static showed Cyborg, too.
Yeah. And I liked how Jericho was smart enough. He didn't know enough about Static that he could really rig up a good attack against him. So he went a different route with keeping him in check, saying, oh no, be calm. This is just a training drill. We do this type of stuff all the time. I didn't have enough information on you to set you up in this, and I wanted to explain it to you. And he's being all calm and everything, and he's like, no, this is non-lethal. I wouldn't hurt the Titans. They're my friends. And it's just, I ate that up. And finally, but the hero in Static knows something ain't right here. And Static unleashes. And that was just a cool bit. He's like, one, you should have killed me first.
Well, but not only that, it also shows, and it was a good story element. I'm glad that McKeever is so heavily involved in this, because it shows that Static's already been manipulated through Terror Titans. So his warning buzzer would be going off like crazy with what he already went through from Clock King. So, I mean, this is... I like that, to me, it would have been, at this point, dude, after what you've just been through, you didn't see through that? That was what worked for me. Tiny details like that. It was a great writing element, and I really enjoyed that. So I enjoyed that in each book, too. You mentioned Teen Titans. We're getting to know each of the Titans in their book, in this story arc. As we go through Titans, we're getting to see that this is a team right now. Nightwing is left. They banded together without the purpose initially of staying together. It was a thing of convenience. But now that they're staying together, they're starting to realize that they need to be organized. And nobody wants to address leadership, and actually, because they're still like kind of reluctantly together. But that's coming closer and closer to this family thing. And we're seeing right away that there's one that's standing out, Donna Troy. And Roy sees it. Like, Roy's the first one to see it because of their previous relationship, and I love that he can see that she wants this, even though she isn't quite ready to admit it. But in practice, when the situation calls for someone to step up, we see Donna Troy step up and start announcing what they're going to do next, where they're going. And it was, I see that we see now who's going to be leading the team.
I love that.
I did too.
That was just... And not just because it's kind of neat seeing Titans and Teen Titans both have the same basically character class running the show. It was it felt right. It felt natural for her to jump into place. We got to see some really cool stuff over the past years with her. We're seeing a neat hero in her, and I'm glad she has this opportunity to spread her wings.
I was glad to see with Starfire, too, that we see these segments with Starfire in both the prelude and all the way through, where she's glad that Nightwing's gone. After their emotional moment that they had together, it makes sense that, how hard would that be? They were going to get married. They were right on the edge of that. They had this wonderful love that was going on for all this time, and now Dick has basically admitted that that's done and over, and he doesn't have those feelings anymore. She isn't there.
Yeah.
She isn't in the same spot that she is. She was ready to start things up again. How hard would it be to be with that person all the time? Sometimes you need to be away. You need to be completely separate in order to move on and to start your own. So it would make sense that she would be glad that, hey, we're not seeing each other. We're completely separate. He's over there. I'm here. I have an opportunity now. You need that. I think it was a very real reaction from her that I liked.
And Garfield and Raven.
Oh, yeah.
That is another one where I'm like, man, I feel so bad for the guy. Because,
and her, too.
Well, her...
Because she is not being entirely truthful on, I think, on what's going on with her. Right. I don't think we've completely seen yet. I think she's scared.
Yeah, she's either scared about, turning evil again, scared about what it could happen, how it could hurt him. It's one of those things where I think she's trying to, spare him, give him the heartache now to spare him a greater heartache later.
Right.
And to be honest, that never works. The only thing that works is you have to be honest. You have to be truthful, and you have to just, throw it out there.
Do you think she was being genuine when she said that she did that just to boost him?
Part of me says yes, but part of me is like no. Part of me is like she felt for him. There was feelings and there was emotion.
I don't see her being that type of person.
I can't see her doing that. It would just seem too mean.
Yeah, which doesn't fit her.
Right.
That's not Raven. So I think it's an interesting twist, and I'm going to be curious to see where that relationship goes and how it goes. I'm curious to see who the writer is. I know that they announced issue 15. It's by J.T. Krul, and it's Krul, who I've read his writing before. I know he's done stuff for, I believe, Aspen. And I've seen him do DC stuff before and some of the other DC books as well. And I'm going to be curious to see if he's staying or if he's just going to be for this. But that one's a prelude to Blackest Night, where Tempest returns. And the question is, how is this going to affect Titans? And they say the last page not only answers this question, but will have the fans buzzing, which means it's probably going to be a big prelude in there. But I'm thinking, does that mean we're going to see Aquaman or perhaps Aquagirl? And I'm talking about the original Aquagirl, who used to date Tempest, which would fit Blackest Night as well. Either of those choices. So is that going to be our first appearance of Aquaman or Aquagirl? I don't know. But I'm curious if that's going to be the new writer or not, or if this is just for a fill-in.
Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about Vigilante before, and just his role in Deathtrap. I gotta say, just as the issues are going on, as this is developing out, I'm really liking that they included Vigilante in this. They could have very easily kept this Teen Titans, because this is Jericho we're talking about. This is Deathstroke we're talking about. These are normal, that's who they normally go up against, the Titans. Throwing in Vigilante in the mix is a great way to, one, introduce he's not new, but he is a new. This is a relaunch of a series. This is a great way to introduce us to this character in this story arc. You're seeing who this guy is, and
it's not forced though.
Right. This is a nice, comfortable read, and as I said, these are flow throughs. I'm reading the one, reading the other, then read the third. Boom, 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 just right in a row. It's a great flow through, and I'm loving it. Man.
Loved when he shot Cyborg in the head and just explodes all over the place, just showing again that I'm going to do what I need to do to stop this situation, whatever that means. Now he firmly felt that Cyborg was going to be rebooted, but how does he know?
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of
well, that scene right there raised a very interesting question in my head. Mm-hmm. Okay, now the main villain is, of course, Joey, Jericho, however you want to refer to him, but he's, Deathstroke Jericho. So we're getting a cool Deathstroke story without Deathstroke.
But not just Deathstroke.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of things going on in there, and, there's a whole bunch of... the question becomes at this point, can Jericho be saved? I don't know.
Well, he can be saved, just depends on whose methods. Now, is it going to be a Titan's method, or is it going to be a Vigilante method? Because the Vigilante method is usually a bullet to the head. And, well,
that's not saving Jericho. That's not saving Jericho, that's saving other people from Jericho. Well, there's a huge difference there. Saving Jericho would be helping Jericho.
In a way, it is saving him from the torture of what he's going through. Mm-hmm. That's that mercy killing, putting him out of his misery.
Right.
So there is a form of saving in it. Now, not the exact ideal way. We'd rather see where Jericho's fine mentally and in one piece and living happily ever after, but that may not happen.
Right.
And that's the thing that I really like the Vigilante being in this story.
How's Rose going to play in that?
Yeah. See, I don't know.
This is her brother.
Yeah. So it's... if this was just a Titan story, I would figure there's going to be a way around not killing Jericho. We got Vigilante in the mix. Jericho may be dead after this thing is said and done.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that there is that mystery of it may happen. Who knows? We'll find out in a couple issues.
Well, I wonder if he's going to be the only death. Or, he doesn't necessarily even have to be a death, but are we going to see people die in this? I'm assuming.
Yeah. I don't know. There's so many people who could have a possible bullseye on their chest throughout the DCU, because we're seeing Jericho just open up and killing people left and right. So in Vigilante, he's not too he's not squeamish when it comes to killing. No. So there's going to be blood, and that's just something that I don't like that normally in hero comics that I read, but there are times where it fits, and this is just it's so fits this story that I'm like, yes.
I love that the constant backstory in Vigilante with him trying to get a new identity put together so he can escape all this. Because, and I love that he, to buy time, erases
their hard drive,
and their hard drive to make sure that they can't identify who he is yet. Because he needs to buy as much time with this identity as he possibly can before he crafts a new one so he could move on. because he needs to keep this secret. I love that we don't know who he is.
Yeah.
And that even under, now we've seen this identity is completely fabricated for the purpose of keeping him undercover. He's going to get a new identity. In all those cases, we still do not know who he is.
Right. And that is a cool thing, that this is the main character and we don't know yet. We're 5 issues into his series.
Do you think he's Adrian Chase?
Part of me thinks so. I was thinking that, and then I was like, you know what? I don't think he is. And I read a couple of the old, Vigilantes, and I know there was like a second Vigilante one, because didn't Chase become like a judge or something like that?
Yeah, it's going to be. I guess I'm wondering who.
Is this maybe a connection?
Or is this a completely brand new...
Part of me is thinking this is a completely brand new thing.
Yeah, which I'd be fine. I'm not... And you know what? I'm fine with any of those options. I like the mystery. I don't want to know. It'd be cool eventually to get his backstory, but to me, the mystery is way too much fun right now. And seeing him develop a new identity and where that new identity is going to go and what kind of adventures it's going to lead him on. This is a story where you could really freshen it up by giving him a new identity.
Yeah.
So this is a book that really could continue on for quite a long time and continually stay fresh because you just change his MO. And because the new identity would change his connections, the way he operates, his supporting cast. You could really give this guy a deep, rich supporting cast and completely change it up by giving him a new identity. So it's fun. It's interesting. I like this book a lot. So I'm curious to see where Deathtrap goes. Is Deathtrap 6 issues?
I'm not sure.
Because I know, is it going through?
It's a 5. It's a 5. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I think it.
Well, it's 6. It's 6 counting the prelude, but I think it was 5.
I think there might be an epilogue too.
Yeah, so, probably. Probably if there's a prelude, there's probably an epilogue.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I'm curious to see how the whole thing pans out. It's a good ride.
Oh yeah, definitely a real cool story.
Do you got anything else?
Well, I got a Green Arrow, Black Canary, and JSA. But do we want to maybe throw those on the next time?
No. Let's talk about them. Let's talk. We can do it real quick.
Okay.
Because I don't know how we can't talk about Green Arrow, Black Canary, and JSA. So
yeah. Oh man, tell me about it, dude. I loved the Green Arrow, Black Canary 19. And it was cool to see that Ollie was able to recognize that Merlin wasn't Merlin. He wasn't in the exact position he should be, and he hits the string holding him up, and he doesn't kill him. I love that. And then as he's explaining how she knew, he's like, "How'd you know?" He's like, "Well, look at his stance. It's a lower place. That's a basic stance. He and I both fire with the upper dialogue, with the upper adjustment, it's the professional stance where you're looking down the shaft as the aiming. Just bam, that right there. I was like, because at the end of the last issue, I was worried that Ollie would cross over the line because he is getting darker and he is, kind of being more Batman-esque, So I like seeing that there is still the real Ollie there. And can I just say how much I absolutely love crazy women? Crazy women in comics are just wonderful, and especially when they're used correctly. We're seeing it with her. She is absolutely bonkers, but it's not like the Joker insane. It's in her mind, this makes sense. I'm in love with Green Arrow, so I'm going to kill all his villains for him.
Not only that, she's willing to kill him to immortalize them.
Right, well, that just makes sense. Think about it. You handcuff yourself together, you let the A train hit you, and, you're linked together for all time. That perfect sense. Oh man, crazy women rock. But the best thing though, seeing Black Canary and her throw down, and they're just going back and forth, and I love the dialogue even between the two of them. She was like, "You're crazy." He's like, "No, I'm smitten." I'm reading this laughing because, just the look, the smile on her face. She's got some blood on her, and some of that blood is Ollie's because he dared to say, "What are you, crazy?" And quick reaction, she stabs him in the arm with a knife. And he's like, "Whoops, oh, sorry about that. Lost my control a little bit." I'm just like, oh my God, this woman's awesome.
I love that Dinah handcuffs herself to Ollie. It shows her experience. She's dealt with all kinds of loonies before. So in this case, she recognizes the situation and has to handcuff herself to him in order to get the key back so Ollie can be freed.
But not only that, just her dialogue, she did that.
Oh, yeah.
The two of us dying while fighting a common foe. People will never stop talking about Green Arrow and Black Canary dying in each other's arms. That was just like the ultimate little jab, twist of the knife
But
in
recognizing the quirk.
Yeah, she recognized her weakness. You got to exploit the weakness. Now, the one thing that did get me, and I was sitting there, I was reading, I was laughing. I'm like, Ali, is a womanizer. He's, he's Joe Cool. He's Joe Slick, and I'm not about to dare, offer him advice on how to pick up women because I couldn't. But obviously, he hasn't dealt with enough crazy women.
Oh, yes, he has.
Because he made the classic mistake. Mm-hmm. When she's sitting there,
he's a different man now, though.
But still. See, when she was holding that arrow tip to the throat of Merlin, and she's like, you don't even care about me. He slips up, and he's trying to calm her down, talk her down and all that, and he's like, no, I like you. And that little slip up, it was a quick 10-second, little blip that anybody would say it. You're trying to calm her down, refresh her. That to her was a complete justification of every single thing she did. Right there, that's her reassurance. He's in love with me. He wants to be with me, but the timing's all wrong. That's all, in that 10-second little, 2-word little blip, slip up. And it's not a slip up. He's being a nice guy. Mm-hmm. You're sitting here dealing with someone, you're trying to calm him down. Hey, I like you. Just put down the arrow and we'll talk about it. That's a normal phrase anyone would say, but they're telling not a normal person, telling a crazy person. Crazy person's going to hear what they want to hear.
Right. And he's dealt with crazies before, but the difference is, it's funny, you dress him as a womanizer, he's not really a womanizer anymore. That's changed for him. He's going to a very dark place right now, but it's a very different dark place. And it's funny now that they're dealing with it, they've been through so much together. Green Arrow and Black Canary. And she's worried now in a very different way, in a way that she hasn't been for a while with him, because there's a different problem now.
And it's funny, I can see how they're going to split the two up into co-features now, because you think about it, at the end there, we see Cupid, and then we also see the deaf musician, who, until he comes up with a villain name, I'm just referring to him as the Maestro, but he's going to be something. So now I can see they both have their own little things they're dealing with. It's not that they're not together anymore. They have their own villains to deal with, because we know that guy's going to become a villain. He's going to come gunning for Black Canary because what she did to him, or he's going to come gunning for the Green Arrow to make her suffer, which would then lead for Cupid to go after Black Canary.
I will be really ticked if they split the two of them up.
Well, I don't think they're going to split them up. I think they're both going to be operating in the same city.
I never assumed that they were going to split them up. I like the fact that we're going to get some solo offerings from... I think Black Canary is a character that would be fun just to kind of explore doing her own thing, and the same thing with Ali, and yet team them up when... it fits too. So I mean, I think
and in interviews, they said there's going to be times where she's going to be the lead feature and Ollie's going to be the second feature. So there's going to be time, and I like that, seeing that, especially just seeing that final page, seeing them like, okay, we're not getting a breakup of those two, which was something I did not want to see. And in the final pages of those two together, where they're like, Ollie's like, yeah, I am going to a darker place, and he's opening up to his wife, and he's admitting to it, and you see just that, that comfort and closeness between the two of them as they're laying in bed together. It's that there is a stable, rock solid there. They are together. They are together. They are a marriage. They are a union, and I like seeing that strength in the characters. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with these guys, in the upcoming issues.
All right, and what was the other book that you said?
Well, I was thinking JSA 25, which was, oh my god, dude. Talk about just
huge issue.
It was a huge issue. Not only a huge Black Adam, Marvel family, but a huge JSA issue.
And it's the second last issue of Jeff Johns. Right. 26 is the epilogue to this, which is his concluding issue. Yeah,
this was something that really... There were still some questions I have, especially about Mary. Was she corrupted by Black Marvel? Was she corrupted by Black Adam? Or was she corrupted by Desaad? This whole issue made it sound like it was a pure Black Adam corruption, and that Desaad just kind of took advantage of it. Or they're not considering the Desaad in the mix. I'm not sure what it is, but this is definitely showing a Black Adam corruption of power.
Right, which to me goes back to what we saw in Countdown. I think Jeff Johns is crafting now an explanation that fits for people that read Countdown all along and saw what happened with Eclipso and the Black Adam power and how that all worked. It was the Black Adam power that allowed Mary to be corrupted by Eclipso, and then Desaad took advantage of it. He's actually crafting a story here that makes all of it work.
Yeah, he's explaining it. Yeah.
A good writer just is doing this for us right now, that making a story that, for anybody that read Countdown straight on, and whether you like Countdown or not, I'm not getting into that right now, but I like that good writers can say, hey, I got a story here right now, and in a few little dialogue lines, I can make just all of that kind of work together for you. Whatever you liked, whatever you didn't like, this works for everybody. So, if you avoided Countdown, it works for you. If you read Countdown, it works for you. I like that. It's a good writer who is accounting for all the fans who've been reading this all along.
Right, and
in a very short segment.
Yeah, and now here's the one thing I am wondering about, and maybe you can help me out with the Wizard.
Okay.
Because he seemed like just a crotchety old man to me. Because I'm like, dude, yeah, I can understand you needed to pull the power from Black Adam. Black Adam gave up the power to him to free him to bring him back. And then you pull the power from Black Mary, from Black Billy, from Isis, and strip them down. I understand that completely. But then afterwards, one, turning both those two into statues, okay, maybe some justification, but if they're a corrupted power, you really, do you need to do that? Do you need to make them suffer, for what they've done if they're corrupted? But Billy, the dude was trying to do his best. He didn't ask to become the Wizard Shazam. He didn't ask to...
But he entrusted Billy to that. If you look back at the original story, he entrusted Billy to that, and it failed in his eyes. Look what happened to Mary. Freddy now has these powers under Billy's guidance and leadership, that now are through a completely different set of power sources. So he's looking at that his name has been corrupted by being under these power sources. So he's looking at everything that he had in place before he left is now completely turned and changed. So in many ways, I think the crotchety old wizard is meant to represent the classic Shazam fans. No, I mean, and I'm not saying that in a negative way about them at all. What I'm saying is he's the voice of people who are like, what are you doing to my Marvel family? And I don't mean this in a negative in any way. I'm saying that he's coming back and saying to the questions, look at this. This is a mess. I'm going to... And Johns did this in one clean sweep. He has now changed the lay of the land for the Marvel family and left open an option. There's now a dark wizard or a dark power of some sort, a black power that's in place that's going to be some form of nemesis. Will this be the reason that Billy and Mary eventually get powers back? I don't know. What's going to happen with Freddy, who's going to be in this upcoming JLA series with his Shazam powers? Is there going to be a reckoning between the Wizard and Freddy? Is the Wizard going to give his blessing to Freddy after that? I don't know.
Yeah, see, the Wizards made it sound like he was going after Freddy next. Right. And he was like, I'll deal with that next. You know? So I'm wondering, is he going to try to take the powers away? But we see Freddy in this JLA series.
Which is coming up soon, though.
Yeah.
So is it going to happen during that miniseries? Is it going to happen after that miniseries? I don't know. But they've left the lay of the land in a place for somebody to take the reins. I'm very curious to see where the Marvel family's going from here. I actually am a big fan of what they've done here, because they've left open some opportunities to either go back to the classic, to bring elements of the classic back, or to bring the Wizard into Freddy's world and somehow have that work. I don't know. They've left open a lot of different options on how this can go, and yet they didn't discount anything that's happened before. It all happened. It all is relevant, and yet they've left an interesting playing field in place.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I do wonder is why didn't... Okay, I understand why Billy went back to Fawcett City to try to get back into the cave, and go see his father. I really felt for the kid. Right. But when he's there for a couple days and it's raining on him and he's not able to get in, first thing I would do is I would go back to the JSA and ask for help. You have
to remember, this is a kid, though, that was homeless for time, so he's been in that situation before. So at this point, you remember, he hid who he was from the JSA for the longest time, his age and all that. Not to say that we won't see him in the JSA again. I don't know. We'll see what Willingham and Sturgis do with him. I think it would be a mistake to not have him and Stargirl explore some more of that along the way. So, I don't know. I'm hoping we do get eventually some storytelling with him in the JSA again. I'm curious to see where the follow-up to this is eventually going to take place. Is it going to be in JSA? Is it going to be in its own miniseries? Is it going to be in Justice League? Is it going to be... I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but I do hope, because these are interesting characters. And like I said, the Wizard comic wasn't a knock on classic fans. I think what Johns did here is he crafted a story that, for people, maybe their first exposure was Trials of Shazam. That story is relevant to this. For people that were fans of the classic, that story's relevant to this. Countdown's relevant to this. They've, in many ways, addressed the concerns of everybody and left a playing field that's open for any writer to go in a direction that they want to go with these characters, and I'm hoping we see that. I personally am glad Billy's no longer the Wizard.
Yeah, me too.
I was not... I liked that they kind of explored that, but I never considered that permanent. I never wanted that to be permanent. I enjoyed it at the time. I did like... I'm going to admit I was a fan of Trials of Shazam, so I'm glad that they didn't throw that out the window. I'm not against them doing something different and going in a different direction with it, but I'm never a fan of, this miniseries happened, you need to address it. So I'm glad that they did. And that's what Johns is a master of that. He's addressed everything in all this, and I think he created something that's satisfying for new and old fans. Because I read the classic Power of Shazam series. I loved that series. So I felt that was a very satisfying way to address that as well. The Wizard needs to be back. So I'm glad he's back. I'm curious to see, though, you talk about how crotchety he is. Is it just because of the way the world was left? Kind of going back to what you were saying. And it's got me wondering, or is there something else going on there? What is going on with this dark power? Is that another wizard? Is it some other... What is going on?
Is it the balance in the universe?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got the force of good, so you have to have your force of evil.
I don't know. Yeah, that fits. And I mean, that's always been a story that's, Black Adam was the force of evil to Billy's force of good. So now is there a force of evil wizard to, and is that going to have anything to do with Black Adam, or is it going to be with a new character? I don't know.
Well, he did say, now I have my own champions.
Right.
And he was plural, too, so that could be Black Adam and Isis.
Right, or
just Isis and maybe not Black Adam. I don't know.
Or new people. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can we talk Trinity just really quick? Because I know we got to kind of wrap up, but I just want to address something real quick. In the recent issues of Trinity, we've seen them giving up their humanity to become gods, or to stay gods. They didn't choose this. They were dropped into this position because of what happened with the spells, but they're choosing to stay this way. And they think they're more effective because of this. Look at all the things they can do. Here's my question, though. What happens when you give up your connection to the people? When you give up connecting on a personal level? You lose touch with being an inspiration then, showing them a better way. It's the humanity that separates them from the bad guys. Like Superman Batman had a recent arc that explored this with the power swap between the two characters. We got to see a very dark place with Batman that he went to when he no longer had to sleep and he had Superman's powers and keep going. Now we're seeing these godlike characters who've completely lost touch with their humanity and who they are. And in the end, where are we going to see these characters go? I've been enjoying that exploration with these characters, and I'm curious to see what it's going to take to bring them back down to Earth.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool seeing the characters that, Alfred and Lois Lane and, Tresser just trying to get them back. Supergirl, just trying to get them back. And they even acknowledge, we see you, we know who you are, we know why you're doing this, but we can't do that. And a couple of times when there's instances that the Trinity are responding to, the heroes are also responding to it. And they even said, that was one of the issues where they were talking about, why do they continue doing this? We're just going to fix it for them. They're never going to give up. That's something they learned from us. And I see them slowly starting to connect back to who they were. And what was the true strength behind the Trinity wasn't this massive mega power. It is inspiration. And it's, you want to be better because of them. You want to, be like Superman or be like Wonder Woman.
Them doing everything themselves serves no purpose. It's them being agents of change and driving others and building this large, group of people and inspiring this large group of people. When they talk about, in Flash Rebirth, there's this great exploration of Jay Garrick and Barry Allen, where Jay Garrick talks about how Barry inspired him to run again. It doesn't matter if they're old heroes or new heroes, you can still be an inspiration. And Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman have inspired both generations, or multiple generations of heroes, to be something. to do something, to be agents of change. But not just heroes. We see people like Lois Lane, people like Jimmy Olsen. These are characters who are, Alfred. They don't have powers, but they were inspired to be something, some agents of change. So it's interesting to see how that works. I love this series. Yeah. This is one of those that I, without hesitation, would hand to somebody who's never read a DC comic before and said, you want to understand a little bit of what DC's all about, read this book.
And just the backstory with the... I don't know what you want to call them, the misfits, that escaped from thing. I love that they first escape and now they're like, we shouldn't run away. We should do something. And they find Convict. And they're like, help us. You know what to do. What do we got to do? We need your help. And I'm really digging that bonding they're getting with Convict.
And
he knows.
And I like how when they were trying to run away, Enigma's daughter, leaving her behind, that orb.
Yeah.
They had issues with that. I like, they've become a great supporting cast in this whole thing. And I think they're a great supporting cast because we got to see them as like sort of pseudo bad guys in the beginning, but then we saw them evolve because they had to see what was going on around them. And those are interesting characters as well, misunderstood, and just because they're quirky. And misfits is a great explanation for them because they're misfits. They don't really fit, but yet I think as comic fans, we've all been there at some point, which is why we relate. Yeah, well, that's why we relate to them. I mean, they're fun characters because of that. It's just a great series. It's leading to the next miniseries that's going to be coming out. Wednesday's Comics is announced for July, and it's going to be a 12-issue series with some of the greatest names in comics today. And I was looking at this in Newsarama. Wednesday's Comics is a unique modern comics history, reinventing the classic weekly newspaper comics section. It's a 16-page weekly that unfolds to a sprawling 28 by 20 tabloid-sized reading experience, bursting with mind-blowing color, action, and excitement, with each feature on its own 14 by 20 page. So these are going to be big pages of these
Dang,
these
that's going to be
strips.
kind of neat.
But listen to some of the talent. They're going to have Batman Wednesday's Comics with cover feature, which is by the Eisner Award-winning 100 Bullets team of Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Risso. So Batman by them.
Oh, yeah.
Adam Strange by writer-artist Paul Pope from Batman Year 100. Metamorpho by Neil Gaiman. And art by Michael Allred from Madman. Ooh. The Demon and Catwoman, Walter Simonson, with the art by DC cover artist Brian Stelfreeze. Dead Man by Dave Bullock and Vinton Hewick, art by Dave Bullock. Commandy by Dave Gibbons from Watchmen, Green Lantern Corps, and Ryan Sook, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Arkham Asylum, Living Hell. Superman by Jar Narcuti from The Mask, art by Lee Bermejo from The Joker.
Oh, man.
Wonder Woman, written and illustrated by Ben Caldwell from Dare Detectives. Green Lantern by Kurt Busiek from Trinity and Astro City, with art by Joe Quiones from Teen Titans Go. Teen Titans by Eddie Berganza, with art by Sean Galloway. Supergirl, written by Jimmy Palmiotti of Jonah Hex, art by Amanda Connor of Power Girl.
Oh.
Hawkman, written and illustrated by Kyle Baker, Plastic Man, Special Forces. Sergeant Rock, Adam Kubert, illustrated by comics legend Joe Kubert.
Oh, man.
The Flash by Carl Kerschel and Brendan Flesher, illustrated by Carl Kerschel. Metal Men by Dan DiDio, with art by Ian Churchill. Wednesday's Comics will arrive in stores folded twice to 7 by 10, with the first issue set to release in July 8th. So,
hey, man, that's cool.
Yeah, and they don't have pricing yet or anything on it, I don't think. Well, no, it looks like it's going to be $3.99.
That's good.
Which, I mean, that's for what they're delivering, it's going to be an interesting experience. But 12 issues. And it's put together by DC editorial art director Mark Chiarello, whose credits include Batman Black and White, DC The New Frontier, and Solo. Now, did you read Solo at all, or was that before we started this?
It was before.
Okay. Solo was a monthly series, and each issue was done by a different high-profile artist. And it was like an anthology-style book in the sense that throughout the issue, the artist crafted different stories. Sometimes they wrote and drew the stories themselves. Some of the artists had writers who wrote the different segments and they drew them. It was a showcase of art, is really basically what it was. And creators. It was a creator showcase. So it was a great chance. So each issue was solo because it was a solo person.
Right.
That was throughout the entire issue. But I liked it because it was anthology style. It was very clever. And each issue was unique. I think what's of interest, Black and White, New Frontier, and Solo, all were unique and revolutionary in their scope, and that they did something new and unique. This Wednesday's Comics looks to do that as well. I'm very excited for this. So, Trinity, I like that each of these series, 52, 52, I'm drawing a blank right now. Countdown, thank you very much. I was ready to say checkmate. I'm like, checkmate. 52, Countdown, Trinity, and this, they're all very different experiences all the way through. None of them have been the same. And I really like that they're just kind of trying to do something different to keep you excited to keep trying these weekly books. So I like that it's going to be the Sunday comic strip thing coming in, though. So I'm excited for this book. I think it's going to be an interesting little series, and I thought we should talk about it as kind of we wrap up this particular segment. Boy, did we talk about a hell of a lot more stuff than I expected. I was expecting to cut some of this, but then I was kind of like, well, no, because we've got some features coming up for our next episode that we kind of have to get to. So let's wrap up right here, though. Jim, our next episode, we've got listener voicemails galore. We've got some audio comments we're going to be getting on. We have the second part of that interview with Art Lyon. We're either going to do speeding bullets, or if our segments work out this week, we might have a segment on Oracle or Booster Gold or both. I don't know what the length of those segments are going to look like yet because we haven't done them. So we'll see what fits together for our next episode, but those are definitely going to be airing the next couple weeks over our next episodes as well. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Don't forget to check out Filthy Rich, the hardcover, and Dark Entries, the hardcover. Both of those are $19.99 regularly. They're 55% off, only $8.99. This is part of the new Vertigo crime line. Dark Entries is written by Ian Rankin, art by Werther Del Erda, with cover by Lieber Mayho. Occult detective John Constantine has seen his share of strange things in his career, but nothing could prepare him for the horrors of reality television. Haunted Mansion is currently the hottest show on TV, but when the macabre household actually starts attacking its contestants, Constantine is hired to be the ultimate mole. Locked inside with a cast of wannabe celebrities, his every move is being monitored by a deadly figure of his past. Constantine must figure out who or what is pulling the strings before he gets canceled permanently. Dark Entries is a classic locked room mystery starring Hellblazer's John Constantine by Ian Rankin, the #1 international best-selling crime writer best known for his Inspector Rebus novels. Rankin has won numerous awards, including the Edgar Award in 2004, and is joined in this graphic novel by Italian artist Werther Del Erda, the illustrator of a number of American comics, most notably Vertigo's Loveless, which was a beautiful, beautiful series. So again, those books are going to be both $19.99 regularly, 55% off, only $8.99. Whatever your shipping preferences, bag and boarding preferences, DCB service accommodates your collecting needs. Don't forget to check out InStockTrades.com for Batman, The Long Halloween, either the Absolute Edition, regularly $75, 37% off, only $47.25, and the trade paperback, $19.95 regularly, 37% off, only $12.57. Free shipping on orders of $50 or more, ton of collected editions in stock and ready to ship. Thank you for supporting us, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Don't forget to check out our friends with Lords of Justice. Whether you're a fan of comics, superheroes, or just action-packed adventure tales, add Lords of Justice to your reading list. Lords of Justice is available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and CyberWizardProductions.com. Jim, big things coming over the next couple weeks.
Big stuff coming, and it's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, so we will see you next week.
Bye.